Hey there, and welcome to Weeb Novel Audiobook, your hub for epic fanfics, original stories, and thrilling adventures brought to life. Make sure to subscribe for regular updates and swing by my Patreon for early access and exclusive mature content. Now, sit back and enjoy the journey.
Chapter 36, Chapter 36, Chapter 36, Uncle Eldrin 10 a.m. I woke up feeling way more refreshed than usual. For the first time in a week, I didn't wake up with that annoying drowsiness or dark circles under my eyes. AHH. I stretched with satisfaction. This is what enough sleep feels like. The warm morning sunlight streamed through the small window of the old church, giving off a pleasant warmth. But something was weird. Wasn't I supposed to feel that comfortable morning vibe? Usually at this time, Goddess Hestia would still be sleeping or just waking up with messy hair. But today. Kane-kun. You're awake, a cheerful voice came from the kitchen direction. I sat up in bed to see a shocking sight. Goddess Hestia was already dressed neatly with a clean apron, hair combed properly, and busy preparing breakfast with incredible enthusiasm. Goddess, why are you up so early? I asked while rubbing my eyes. Of course I have to wake up earlier, she answered with slightly flushed cheeks. How could a goddess let her favorite child wake up without a proper breakfast? The way she moved around the kitchen, preparing plates carefully, even folding napkins neatly, like a wife preparing breakfast for her husband. Goddess, you don't need to go through all this trouble. I said, but she already cut me off. No way. You looked so tired yesterday. As a responsible goddess, I have to make sure you don't starve while staying with me. I felt weird about Goddess Hestia's words. Shouldn't I be the one saying as an adventurer I can't let Goddess Hestia starve with me? Even though I was thinking like that, I didn't dare say it out loud. Seeing Goddess Hestia's excessive enthusiasm, I could only smile. Seems like last night's conversation really made her more attentive. After breakfast that was incredibly delicious for me, doesn't mean it's good for others, and incredibly huge, I started preparing myself for today. But today was different. Today, for the first time, I'd be bringing my new spear. I lifted the 1.6-meter spear carefully. Its weight felt perfect in my hands, not too heavy but not too light either. All right, I muttered while trying some basic movements. First time using a spear. Hope I don't stab myself. However, I'd never held a spear before. It'd be embarrassing if I got hit by my own weapon. I strapped the spear to my back with sturdy leather straps, while the 60 centimeters short sword still hung at my left hip. The problem was, I wasn't used to the spear's length yet. Every time I turned around, the spear tip almost hit the wall. However, this spear was really long. Its length was only 1 centimeter shorter than my height. Even though I tied it diagonally, this spear still hit stuff. As for why I didn't tie it vertically, don't ask. Because the long spear tip, 1.6 meters, could touch the ground or disturb movement while walking. Moreover, diagonal made me feel cooler and it was easy to access and aesthetic. Kane-kun, be careful with that spear, Goddess Hestia warned when she saw me almost knock over the table. Sorry, Goddess. Still adapting, I said while adjusting the spear's position. The small mirror in the corner of the room showed my appearance that was pretty cool too, I muttered while adjusting the spear position. After saying goodbye to Goddess Hestia who followed me to the door with a worried expression, seriously, she really looked like a wife seeing her husband off to work, I left the church and started walking through Orario's streets. First problem, walking with a spear on my back turned out to be way harder than I imagined. Every time I passed through narrow crowds, I had to tilt my body so the spear wouldn't get caught on other people's heads. Excuse me, I said while trying to get through the crowd of people on the street. A fruit seller stared at me with a worried expression as my spear tip almost swept his apple merchandise. "Sorry, sir," I said with an awkward smile. While walking carefully, my mind wandered to last night's events. Goddess Hestia today was really super attentive. The way she woke up early, prepared breakfast enthusiastically, even saw me off at the door with a worried expression. I felt like maybe because of last night's deep conversation, our relationship got closer. If before maybe her affection level was around 60, now after last night's conversation it might have gone up to 75. And if she keeps being like this, maybe it'll break through 80 soon. That thought made me smile a little. Would there be a hidden route? I was looking forward to it. I thought like that while continuing to walk while avoiding people. Without realizing it, I'd already arrived in front of the potion shop where I usually shopped. As for why I didn't switch places to buy potions, it's because I felt a bit bad about it. It's like when you cut your hair at the same place several times, you'd definitely be reluctant to go somewhere else. At least that's what I felt right now. But something was weird. The shop that was usually crowded with customers at this time looked empty. Really empty. Maybe because of previously fight. I muttered while hearing noisy sounds from the dungeon direction. I frowned and pushed the shop door while making sure the spear wouldn't get caught in the doorframe. "Good morning, Uncle Eldrin," I greeted while entering the shop. "Ah. The loyal customer who comes like morning dew." Uncle Eldrin's characteristic voice came from behind the shelves. "But today's dew comes when the sun is already high. Is late dew still dew?" The old man with messy white beard appeared while carrying bottles that kept changing colors. Seeing Uncle Eldrin, I sighed. Who would have thought this old man's personality was so weird? When I first bought potions at this shop, my first impression of Uncle Eldrin was that he was a normal person. Who knew that after getting to know him for a week, his personality completely changed? As the saying goes, when people meet someone they click with, their true nature comes out. Eldrin Vex was an old man with a messy white beard sitting behind the desk, his sharp eyes staring blankly at the bottles neatly arranged on the shelf. Don't know what he was thinking. While looking at Uncle Eldrin. "Why is the shop empty today? Usually it's crowded." "Empty." Eldrin tilted his head. "Or maybe crowded with silence. Noisy silence or silent noise." I felt a headache coming on. Seems like Uncle Eldrin was gonna start talking nonsense again. I mean, there are no other customers besides me. "Ah, customers," he suddenly laughed. "They come like waves. Sometimes big, sometimes small, sometimes they don't come at all. But the sea remains the sea, even without waves?" Conversations with Eldrin were always confusing, but somehow I was starting to get used to it. "All right," I said while taking a seat in front of the counter while sitting carefully because of the spear on my back. "I want to buy potions like usual." "Like usual," his eyes sparkled. "But today you're not like usual. You're shining like a newly sharpened sword." "Does a newly sharpened sword need the same potion?" Was he complimenting me? I looked at the new weapon on my body. "Ah, you're very observant." "Yes, I bought a new weapon yesterday." "New weapon, new soul, new potion," he clapped his hands. "Or maybe, old potion for a new soul? New soul for old potion." "Uncle Eldrin," I decided to get straight to the point. I didn't want to hear his weird sentences anymore. Since becoming a regular customer here, I've only interacted with a few people. You, Goddess Hestia, Inasan, the bread seller, and friends in the dungeon. Saying this, I stared at Uncle Eldrin trying to see if he was lying or not. Friends in the dungeon, he tilted his head. Living friends or dead friends? Or living dead friends? Living friends, I answered quickly, not wanting him to ask more about Gob. What I mean is there anything weird about the potions I bought? Eldrin was quiet for a moment, then laughed loudly. Weird? What's weird? Potions that work or potions that don't work? Potions that heal or potions that... He stopped suddenly. Or potions that do something you don't know about. My heart pounded hard. This guy clearly knew something. Was he the one who poisoned me? But I'm still not sure. However, I don't have proof. What do you mean? Mean, he scratched his beard. Mean is like a door. An open door or a closed door. A visible door or an invisible door. Uncle Eldrin, please answer clearly. Is there something wrong with my potions? Uncle Eldrin's words made me use up more brain cells. Really gives me a headache talking to this guy. He looked at me with eyes that suddenly became very sharp or deep. Wrong? Right? Who determines what's wrong and what's right? You. Me. Or someone you've never seen but who always sees you. Cold sweat started flowing down my back. I don't know what Uncle Eldrin was saying, but somehow I felt a bit cold. All right, I said while taking out money. I'll buy potions like usual. But this time I want potions that are clean. Clean, he laughed again. Clean like water or clean like thoughts? Clean thoughts or dirty thoughts? Dirty from dust or dirty from regular healing potions, Uncle Eldrin. The standard ones. Standard, he clapped his hands. High standard or low standard? Standard you know or standard you don't know? I stared at him grimly. Seeing I was about to get angry, he hurriedly disappeared to the back of the shop and returned with potion bottles that looked normal. Didn't change colors, didn't emit weird smoke. Standard potions for standard adventurers, he said while placing those bottles on the counter. But remember, what's standard isn't always the best. What's best isn't always standard. I paid quickly and rushed out of the shop. Didn't want to hear any more nonsense. Suddenly. But remember, kid, his voice suddenly became serious. Sometimes the people we suspect most are the least dangerous people. And sometimes danger comes from the most unexpected places. His words echoed in my ears as I left the shop, while carefully making sure the spear wouldn't get caught in the door frame again. What did he mean? After leaving, I stopped for a moment to catch my breath. Uncle Eldrin is getting weirder, I muttered while walking toward the dungeon. But at least his potions still work well. Even so, my suspicion toward that shop was getting bigger. Especially after realizing I might be getting poisoned. I take something serious very seriously, especially when my life's at stake. From the people I knew, there were only a few possibilities. Goddess Hestia and Inasan were definitely impossible. The bread seller, maybe. Eldrin, very possible, and Gob. But Gob didn't make sense either. He's a monster who wants to be friends, why would he poison me? I still kept big suspicions about Gob. However, he's a monster. Or maybe there was someone else I didn't know yet. Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Chaos. While walking toward the dungeon, I started hearing weird sounds from the direction I was heading. Sounds of screaming, yelling, and fighting. What the hell is this? Someone screamed. That's my goblin, I saw it first. Where's the proof? I've been ready since earlier. Just split it? Split your head. Come on if you dare. You come on too. Those sounds got louder as I approached the dungeon entrance. Excuse me, I said while slipping through the crowd gathered around the area. The problem was, with the spear on my back, slipping became really difficult. I had to walk sideways like a crab so I wouldn't hit people. Sorry, please move a little, I said to a man blocking my way. Huh? Wanna pass using a spear and all out? My spear tip accidentally bumped his head when I turned around. Sorry. I didn't mean to. I said while bowing. Fortunately, that guy was understanding, so he didn't get mad at me. Especially after knowing I apologized sincerely. The sight I saw after successfully getting through the crowd made me stunned. Shit, what the hell is this? Battle Royal Gladiator? In front of the dungeon entrance, dozens of beginner adventurers were involved in a mass brawl. Hard to tell who was enemy and who was friend because they were all beating each other up without clear rules. You bastard! Give back my magic stone. That magic stone is mine. I killed that kobold. Hey! Let go of my hair. You let go of my leg first. That goblin is mine. The kobold from earlier is mine too. I already said split it. Split your forehead. I tapped the shoulder of an adventurer next to me who was watching with a happy expression. Clearly he was enjoying watching this show. Excuse me, what's going on? I asked, trying to suppress my shock. Ah, you're the one who complained to the guild yesterday, that adventurer answered while glancing at my spear. This is because of the monster shortage on floor 1. Monster shortage? Yeah, for the past few days floor 1 has often been empty. Today we came early and there were indeed some monsters, but the numbers were limited. So all the adventurers started fighting over them. An adventurer who wasn't involved in the fight came over to explain the situation to me. For the past few days, floor 1 has often been empty of monsters. Beginner adventurers like us have been having trouble making money. Today we came a bit earlier, around 5 a.m. Turns out there were some goblins and kobolds left. But because the numbers were few, everyone started fighting over them. So it became like this. I nodded slowly. I could understand they were short on money. So when they found monsters they got pumped up like they were injected with chicken blood. Until monsters couldn't match the number of adventurers. So they're fighting because they're fighting over monsters. One of the men asked the guy who spoke earlier. Not just that, answered another adventurer who heard our conversation. Because it's been hard to get monsters all this time, as soon as there were a few, everyone became like starving people fighting over the last food. Their emotions were already too high, added the first one. Days of frustration exploded today. I swallowed hard. It'd be dangerous if they found out I was the one clearing the monsters. Wouldn't I become the target of these adventurers? While thinking, suddenly. Hey, but why are you carrying a spear? Asked the second adventurer. Usually beginner adventurers use swords. I'm a spear user, I answered briefly. Be careful, spears are hard to use in narrow dungeons. Especially if enough, a very loud voice shouted from the guild direction. A group of uniformed adventurers with elephant emblems approached the fighting area. Ganesha Familia. All of you disperse now, their captain commanded with a booming voice. Or we'll arrest you for disturbing the peace. And damaging Orario's image as a civilized adventurer city, added another member. The adventurers involved in the fight slowly stopped and started separating, though they still glared at each other cynically. Some even made promises like they were gonna fight again somewhere else. You guys, grumbled one of the Ganesha Familia members. Embarrassing. All right, everyone disperse. Nothing to see here, continued another Ganesha Familia member. Because Ganesha Familia was here, the crowd of onlookers also started to scatter. I took this opportunity to sneak into the dungeon without being seen. Fortunately they didn't notice me. However, people like me are common in Orario. After passing the entrance and going down some stairs, I headed directly to floor 2. Floor 1 still looked messy with traces of fighting in several places. As soon as I arrived on floor 2, the familiar green figure immediately appeared from behind a wall. Gob. But the expression on his face wasn't happy. He was looking at me with a gaze that clearly showed dissatisfaction. His arms were crossed over his chest, his body posture showing I'm not happy. Usually he'd greet me enthusiastically, but now he was like a wife who's upset because her husband came home late. "Sorry, Gob," I said while raising my hands. "I overslept today." He made a gesture showing you usually come at dawn like a ghost, why are you now coming like a normal person? "I slept too well," I explained while making sleeping gestures. He nodded sarcastically, then made a gesture showing good excuse. "Hey, don't be like that. I'm human, I need rest too." Gob rolled his eyes, then made a gesture showing humans are weak. "Weak?" I felt offended. "I'm not weak." He made a gesture showing prove it. "All right, I'll prove it." I grabbed my spear. Ready to stab anytime. Gob looked at me with a sarcastic expression. "I knew you were weak," then noticed the spear on my back. He pointed at the spear and made a questioning gesture. I was confused about attacking but still explained. "Oh, this." I patted the spear on my back. "New weapon. First time using it?" Gob's eyes sparkled. He made a gesture showing "Can I see?" "Sure," I said while taking the spear off my back. Gob examined the spear carefully, like an expert evaluating a work of art. Then he made a gesture showing "Good, but you're not used to using it yet. Why are you making that expression? Do you want my spear?" I prayed this goblin wouldn't be interested. Maybe my expression became like a pumpkin head, making Gob laugh, or at least look like it, and make a gesture showing "What's wrong with your face?" I felt really angry, but my face didn't show it. This goblin really likes hitting me. Strong or not, his punches depend on his mood. But then I remembered something important. "Wait, Gob. I need to tell you something." I started making the sign gestures we'd developed all this time. I pointed upward, then made a high sun gesture, then pointed to myself. "Starting today, I might come a bit late. Not at dawn anymore." Gob tilted his head in confusion. "So from now on you'll keep coming in the afternoon?" he asked through gestures. I thought for a moment. Honestly, I felt healthy sleep patterns were more important than coming at dawn. "Maybe," I said while making a gesture showing "sometimes." Gob made a dissatisfied expression, or at least looked like it, and made a gesture showing "Huh. Fine then." "Thank you, Gob," I said awkwardly. He nodded, then made a gesture showing "Let's find an empty place to practice. You need to learn to use that spear." My face was a bit shocked. "Wait, why are you so eager to spar? Seems like this goblin's mood was really bad." "Shit, because you're not happy you're gonna beat me up. Wait until I become strong in the future, it won't be too late for me to get revenge." We both started walking toward a deeper area, avoiding other adventurers who might still be emotional because of the earlier incident. After walking far enough and passing several floors, we arrived at floor 5. In a fairly spacious and empty area, we both stopped. Gob turned to face me and made the very familiar gesture. The gesture showing time for warm-up sparring. I drew my short sword from my waist and prepared in fighting position. "Wait," I said while staring at the spear in that goblin's hands. "I want to try using the spear first." Gob nodded and made a gesture showing "Fine, but don't blame me if you have trouble." Catching the spear that was thrown, I gripped the spear with my right hand and the short sword in my left hand. And prepared in fighting position. This was my first time using a spear in combat. Hope it won't be embarrassing. Gob also prepared in his characteristic combat position. On the empty floor 5, we stood facing each other. As usual, before hunting monsters, we'd do sparring as a warm-up. No, more precisely because this goblin's mood was so bad. But this time with a new weapon I'd never used in combat. And as usual, I prepared to get beaten up repeatedly by this teacher. But this time maybe I'd also be stabbing the air with my spear. I hoped this spear would directly defeat this damn goblin with one thrust. Chapter 38, Chapter 38, Chapter 38, little dragon Gob stood in front of me in his battle stance. His small eyes stared at me with that super familiar look. That look that screamed, "Get ready to get beat up again." He made a gesture with his hand that meant start, like a referee giving the signal for a boxing match. I gripped the spear in my right hand and the short sword in my left. For the first time, I felt a little confident. "I think this spear's strong enough to pierce through a goblin in one thrust. This time I'm gonna hurt you," I muttered while adjusting my position. "This spear's long, it's got good reach. Theoretically, I could attack from a safe distance without having to get into range of Gob's brutal punches. Theoretically. Without waiting long, I decided to attack first. With a movement that I thought looked cool, I thrust the spear at Gob while letting out a small shout, putting all my right arm's strength into that first thrust. Rah! Gob just tilted his head slightly to the right. My spear sailed past his ear with a very safe margin. Huh! That easy to dodge. Before I could pull the spear back, Gob was already moving. Turns out, when you attack with a spear and miss, there's a delay before you can pull your weapon back to ready position. The skill I had started activating, giving me that cold sensation every time Gob was about to attack. Long enough for a goblin to run close and a spear user's weakest range. Wham! The first punch landed right in my stomach. Ugh! I doubled over, but still tried to swing the short sword in my left hand. Gob backed up a little, then made a gesture that clearly meant long weapons need room to move, idiot. I know that, I said while holding back the pain. Bullshit. I didn't know that. Second attempt. This time I tried to be more careful. I backed up a few steps, made sure I had enough distance, then thrust again. This time my aim was better. Gob had to dodge by jumping to the side. Ha! Got you. Before I finished talking, something inside me screamed danger. Danger from the left. My instincts shouted a super clear warning, but for some reason my body reacted like I was swimming in water. I don't mean like being in a dream where you're chased by a ghost. I knew Gob was gonna attack from the left, I knew he was gonna hit my left ribs, I even knew the perfect timing to dodge. But my body moved in slow motion. Arg! Hard punch to the left ribs. I staggered right while grimacing. Shit! I growled in frustration. My instincts already warned me, but my body's too slow. The skill that was supposed to be my trump card was useless. Looks like this goblin got stronger again. No wait, not stronger, faster. So fast I couldn't even react before getting hit by his attacks. I saw that goblin wave his hand in the air like he'd just swatted a bug. Made my mouth twitch. Looks like the goblin really did get stronger. Well, he's a dungeon monster, so he can fight non-stop, makes sense his power would develop rapidly. Gob stood with his hands on his hips, making a gesture that clearly meant, "Is this really all you got?" Okay, I get it," I said while wiping blood from the corner of my mouth. I realized this goblin wanted to finish the fight quickly. I knew his attacks were using all his strength. It's just that my body was tough enough that I didn't go down with just one punch. Seeing the blood on my hand, my expression became serious. I was gonna be serious now. Ahem, I was already serious before, now I'm more serious. If before was 100%, then now it's 101%. I got up and took a fighting stance with both weapons like before, but more stable. Gob made a gesture that meant, "Oh, interesting." This time, when he approached, I didn't just rely on the spear. I thrust with the spear, he dodged, but I immediately followed up with a sword slash. Clang. For the first time, Gob had to draw his sword to parry. Ha! I felt successful. But the excitement didn't last long. Gob pushed my sword hard, making me lose balance, then ting. Survival instinct skill activated again. Danger from the front. This time it worked. I managed to parry his punch with my spear. Huh? It worked. I was surprised myself. Gob made a gesture that meant luck. He started moving more seriously. No more playing around. Looks like I'm more suited to using a spear. Before, using a double-edged sword made it hard to make Gob serious. Now using a spear for the first time I could make Gob serious. What happened next was a fight that was, somewhat more balanced. I used the spear to keep distance and control the area. Every time Gob tried to get in, I'd thrust. Every time he managed to get in, I'd use the sword to defend. Coordinating both weapons felt weird, but there was deadly potential here. Gob was even pushed back a few times. He had to retreat when I successfully cornered him with combinations of spear thrusts and sword slashes. This could work, I muttered while wiping sweat. However, a smile slowly spread across my face. But of course, Gob wasn't gonna let me feel like I was winning. He suddenly moved at full speed. Like green lightning, he slipped under my spear thrust, slid between my legs, then shit, this guy dared to attack my little dragon. I reflexively used my weapons to protect my little dragon. Suddenly, a punch that felt like a rock slammed into my jaw. He delivered an uppercut with his right hand right to my chin. Crack. I saw stars for a moment. The world spun, and the next thing I knew, I was lying on the ground with Gob standing over me, his chest rising and falling. I lost. Of course. But when I looked at him, I saw something new in his eyes. Not mockery anymore. But something that resembled a nod of approval. He extended his hand. Not to punch, but to help me up. I accepted his help, smiling wryly. I lost because I panicked a little. Who wouldn't panic if their third leg was about to be broken? All right, good warm-up. Gob snorted. After resting for a moment, and drinking a healing potion I always carried, we got ready for some real hunting. We went down to the 6th floor. A deeper floor, with more varied and dangerous monsters. Be careful, Gob, I said while holding my spear in ready position. This floor has frog shooters and war shadows. Gob nodded and made a gesture meaning I know. The 6th floor was full of frog shooters and war shadows, monsters more dangerous than the previous floors. 3 war shadows emerged from behind the wall, moving with surprising speed. Okay, I whispered to Gob. I'll hold them off from long range. You attack from the side. Gob made an okay gesture, then disappeared behind the wall. I took a deep breath and moved forward with my spear raised. I was gonna use the spear to create a control zone. This weapon's length allowed me to hold off all 3 monsters at once, thrusting and keeping them from getting close. Meanwhile, Gob, small and agile, moved like a shadow. He snuck between the monsters focused on me and started attacking from their blind spots. Thrust. I directed my spear at the war shadow in the middle, forcing it to retreat. At the same time, Gob jumped from the wall and stabbed the neck of the war shadow on the left. The monster crumbled to ash before it could react. The remaining war shadows tried to attack from 2 different directions. As usual, my skill activated. I could sense attacks from right and left simultaneously. This time, with the spear's reach, I had more options. I spun, using the spear in a circular motion to ward off both attacks at once. Clash. Clash. Both war shadows were knocked back. Gob didn't waste the opportunity. He rolled under the deflected attacks and stabbed the second war shadow in the stomach. Only one left. Finish it? I shouted. I thrust straight forward while Gob attacked from the side. Perfect synchronized movement. The last war shadow crumbled to ash. We're a deadly team, I said with a satisfied smile. We weren't just sparring partners or friends who chat with gestures, but combat partners who could complement each other. Gob made a gesture showing finally you're useful. Finally. I felt offended, looks like only I thought we were a team. I've been useful all along. He made a gesture showing if you were useful, why'd you always get beaten up? That's because you're too strong. Gob laughed, or at least it looked like it, and tapped his chest with a proud expression. I don't know why this goblin's getting more and more arrogant. After hunting for a few hours, we sat in the corner of the room to rest and divide the loot. Without words, I divided the pile of magic stones into 2 equal parts. Gob took his share and put it in a small pouch he carried. I don't know where he got it, maybe he robbed an adventurer? I wanted to ask but decided not to. Thanks for today, I said while extending my hand. Gob stared at my extended hand in confusion. Handshake. I said while moving my hand. Gob tilted his head, then slowly extended his hand. First handshake with the monster. See you tomorrow, I said while standing up. Gob made a gesture meaning be careful on the way. You too. As I walked toward the stairs, Gob suddenly called me with a small voice. Gob gob gob. I turned around. This was the first time I'd heard him speak. He made a gesture meaning don't be late again. Yeah, I'll come earlier tomorrow, I said while laughing. Gob nodded satisfied, then waved with a weird gesture. Like imitating how humans wave, but the goblin version. Cute, I muttered while waving back. What was I even thinking? I muttered, shaking my head. Chapter 39, Chapter 39, Chapter 39, Fatal misunderstanding. The journey back to the surface made me realize the situation around the dungeon was still tense. Several groups of beginner adventurers were still glaring at each other. Looks like the effects of this morning's fight hadn't completely died down. Damn, grumbled one adventurer as we passed. Because of that greedy Ranto, monsters are getting harder to find. Hey, don't blame just me, replied another. You guys are just as greedy. Huh? Wanna try again? Come on if you dare. I hurried away before they started fighting again. Didn't want to get involved in unnecessary drama. Moving away from them, I sighed. Looks like the tension among beginners won't ease up anytime soon. I better be careful. I muttered while walking. The magic stone pouch at my waist felt heavy, but it was a pleasant burden. The burden of hard work that paid off. For the first time, I felt like I was really using strategy in combat. Not just relying on reflexes or luck. The spear turned out to be perfect for my fighting style. Keeping distance, providing support, and letting the more agile partner finish off enemies. Thinking about how much money I made today made me so happy. But suddenly my expression froze. Idiot, muttered one of the adventurers as he passed me. Shit, are you so angry that you call anyone you meet an idiot? Even though I was a little mad, I stayed quiet. I don't know who he was talking to, but I chose not to care. The important thing is I got money. The journey to the dungeon was full of friendly words. I don't know how many adventurers I met were cursing. Arriving at the guild, I went straight to the exchange to trade magic stones. Good afternoon, I greeted the cashier on duty. Good afternoon. Want to exchange magic stones? Asked the cashier with a professional smile. Yeah, here, I said while taking out the magic stone pouch. The cashier started counting and weighing carefully. The process took quite a while because there were quite a lot. Wow, good results today, commented the cashier. The quality of the magic stones is pretty high too. Thanks, I said while waiting for the process to finish. Kane. A familiar voice called me from the side. Miss Hufflot, someone I already knew, approached with a mischievous smile. Miss Huh. Good evening, I greeted somewhat awkwardly. For the past few days I'd been meeting Miss Hufflot often. And often getting teased by her. Wow, so many magic stones today. Miss He said that when she saw the cashier counting my magic stones. Yeah, I answered while trying to stay polite. Got a bit lucky today. I saw Miss He's eyes looking at me and then staring at the magic stones being counted. Then she started talking in a slightly teasing tone. Ina-chan told me you've been asking about the dungeon more and more. Huh. I felt my cheeks getting a bit hot. This person's gonna start teasing me again. Even though I often tease Goddess Hestia doesn't mean I can handle being teased. I was single in my previous life and this life after all. That's because I really need information. Miss He smiled mischievously while putting her index finger to her lips. She said you're also starting to pay attention to safety. Even asking about monsters on floors 5 to 8. That's how it should be, right? I said while trying to look normal. Ina-chan said it's rare for beginner adventurers to be that serious. Miss He continued while looking at me. Usually they focus more on how much money they can make. Well, money's important too, I answered honestly. Miss He laughed. Honest answer. That's why Ina-chan says you're interesting. Interesting. I almost choked on my own saliva. Ina-chan says you're the type of adventurer who can be relied on. Careful but not cowardly, serious but not arrogant. Miss He looked at me with blinking eyes. If I were someone who thought with my lower body, I might interpret Miss He's winking as an invitation. Miss He, stop teasing me, I said while scratching my head. Yeah. But seriously, Ina-chan really cares about you. She often talks about this one adventurer's development. Before I could answer, the cashier counting the magic stones was done. The total is 45,000 valis, said the cashier while handing over the money pouch. Wow, not bad, exclaimed Miss He. I heard what Miss He said but I didn't care. Taking the valis with both hands. Wow. I couldn't hide my excitement. That's almost 4 times more than usual. Thank you, I said while accepting the money pouch. This pouch felt heavy and pleasant. Enough to pay the spear installment, buy a nice dinner for Goddess Hestia, and still have some left over. Getting the money, I wanted to leave quickly since I couldn't stand being teased constantly. See you later, Miss He, I said while saying goodbye. See you. Be careful on the way. I hurried out before she said something embarrassing. I left the guild feeling very satisfied. Today was really a perfect day. Learning a new weapon, good cooperation with Gob, satisfying income, and relationships with people around me getting better. I felt like my life was slowly getting better. The streets of Orario in the evening were quite busy. Merchants started packing up their goods, adventurers wandered around looking for places to eat, and children played. While walking on the somewhat busy street, I started planning dinner for Goddess Hestia. Maybe buy some decent meat, I thought while smiling. Or maybe clothes. She'd definitely be happy if thud. Someone bumped into me from the side. I staggered a bit, then saw a small figure who had just bumped into me. A small child, maybe 10 to 12 years old, with shabby clothes and messy hair. Ah, sorry, I said while helping him up. Looks like I was daydreaming and bumped into someone. Sorry, big brother, he said in a small voice while immediately running away. I just shrugged and continued on my way. But after a few steps. Oi! Thief! Return my money! I heard a loud shout from behind. A middle-aged man was chasing something while shouting. Damn street kid! Return my wallet! Reflexively, my hand felt my waist. My money pouch was gone. Oh, shit. My eyes immediately searched for that small figure. He was already running quite far, slipping between the crowd. Hey! Stop! I immediately ran after him. The chase began. He ran through the busy market, slipping between merchants, jumping over fruit baskets, and moving like a rat who knew the way very well. Me carrying a spear on my back had some trouble moving agilely. "Excuse me. Move. Excuse me," I shouted while trying not to bump into people. The kid kept running, entering narrower and quieter alleys. Far from the main market crowd. "Shit, he really knows this area," I muttered while continuing to chase. The kid was fast, but I was faster. He's just a normal person after all. If I didn't have a talent that kept me from getting lost, I might have had trouble chasing. "Don't run," I shouted while continuing to chase. This chase brought us to a quieter area, far from the main road. Narrow and dirty back alleys. This was a side of Orario I'd never seen before. Broken down houses, scattered trash, and unpleasant smells filled the air. "Stop," I shouted again. Finally, the kid entered a dead end. He stopped and turned to face me with frightened eyes. "Return my money," I said while trying to catch my breath. Chasing a little kid was pretty tiring too. He clutched my money pouch tightly, his eyes watery. "I'm hungry, big brother," he said with a trembling voice. "My brother's sick, needs medicine." I was quiet for a moment. I don't know if that's a lie or not. Part of me felt sorry, but that money was too important. It was today's hard work, money for the spear installment, for Goddess Hestia's dinner. "Kid," I said while crouching to be level with him. "I understand you need money. But that's my hard work. Give it back, okay?" But. He started crying. "Listen, I'll find a way to help you later. But now return the money first." That money was quite a lot for ordinary citizens who weren't adventurers. I extended my hand with a gesture I thought wasn't threatening. "Don't want to," he shouted while backing against the wall. "Kid, don't make it hard. Just return it." I stepped forward and grabbed the money pouch. The kid pulled it hard. "Let go," he shouted. "You let go." I was a bit annoyed. I wanted to use a little force. But I held back. There was a little tug of war. From other people's perspective, this might look like an adult robbing a little kid. Getting a bit annoyed, I finally used a little of my strength. Finally the money pouch came loose from the kid's grip. He fell sitting down while crying loudly. "Sorry," I said while holding the money pouch. "But this is really mine." I felt guilty, but what could I do? That money was hard work, and I had responsibilities too. Suddenly, my instincts screamed loudly. "Danger! Big danger! Retreat!" A very loud warning, louder than usual. I reflexively grabbed my spear. I turned toward the source of danger, and saw a glimpse of a green shadow moving at an impossible speed. Huh! Before I could react, sharp pain pierced my left wrist. The spear was thrown far from my grip. Arg! Then a precision kick hit my stomach, making me double over in pain. I felt like my ribs were broken. Ow! A hard punch to the back of my neck made me fall to my knees. Before I could breathe, another punch hit my face fast, brutal, and hard enough to make the world around me spin. This was the second time my world spun today. Everything happened in seconds. Less than 3 seconds. I didn't even have time to see who attacked me. Now I was lying on the ground, my body battered, my breathing choked, and my mind dizzy. What just happened? I muttered softly, my hoarse voice coming out imperfectly. My jaw felt like it was displaced. Even talking was incredibly painful. With blurry vision, I forced myself to look up. And there she was, the figure that made my blood flow stop for a moment. An elf woman stood there. Her green hair swayed gently in the wind, her blue eyes piercing like knife points. Ryo Lion. That name echoed in my head. Level 4 adventurer. Widely known. Respected. Feared. And also a fugitive. She had just made me like a used rag. Adventurers who prey on the weak are the worst trash, she said. Her voice was calm, but cold. There was no anger there, which made it terrifying. I was still lying there, breathing heavily, blood starting to flow from my nose. The little kid who was crying in fear had vanished. Ran away somewhere. Wait. I whispered hoarsely. Every letter felt like a new wound in my mouth. This is a misunderstanding. Ryu didn't give room for defense. Never show your face to me again, she said coldly. Not a threat, not a warning. That was a verdict. She turned and walked out of the narrow alley, her steps light, calm, as if the incident just now was just cleaning up trash. Meanwhile, I stayed sprawled there, body broken and heart filled with question marks. Damn. My money. I had to chase that kid. I tried to get up. Wrong. Pain from all over my body immediately rejected it. I fell back down with a soft groan. Then. Cough. Thick blood flowed out of my mouth. I coughed hard. Shit. Perfect day. I said, I muttered bitterly while turning my head, my face touching the dirty street stones. What a perfect day. I wanted to stand up but my head was throbbing hard. Vision starting to go dark, like a screen slowly dimming. The last thing on my mind before losing consciousness was whether a level 4 adventurer's punch was that scary. Chapter 40, Chapter 40, Chapter 40, The Color of a Soul, POV Seer. Bright afternoons in Orario always had their own special charm. The streets were buzzing with the chaos of daily life, merchants tidying up their stalls, adventurers wandering around looking for food, and kids playing tag weaving through the crowds. Seer Flava walked with light steps beside Ryu Lion, her bright grayish-blue eyes sparkling as she took in the everyday scenery that never got old for her. At least, that's how it looked from the outside. Ryu-san, look. That bakery's selling new pastries. Seer called out cheerfully, pointing toward a small shop filled with sweet aromas. They're purple like rose petals. I bet they taste amazing. Ryu gave a brief nod, her sharp green eyes still alert as they scanned the crowd. Maybe another time, Seer. We need to get back to the hostess soon. Ah, right, Seer laughed softly, her voice chiming like silver bells. Mamma Mia's probably waiting for us. But look, Ryu-san. That dress in the shop is so pretty. It totally match your hair color. From the outside, their conversation sounded like two normal friends enjoying an afternoon stroll through the city. But behind Seer's bright grayish blue eyes, a pair of purple eyes much older and wiser watched with completely different attention. Every soul around us moves with a rhythm I can predict, thought Freya while maintaining Seer's sweet smile. Merchants with their greedy glints, mothers with their family warmth, children with their pure innocence. All of them. Boring. Ryu suddenly stopped. Her pointed elf ears twitched slightly, catching something Seer couldn't hear. What's wrong? Seer asked innocently, though the purple eyes behind hers had already sharpened. Sound from the alley next door, Ryu replied, her voice turning flat and cold. A child crying. Ryu's whole posture changed drastically. From a calm elf girl, she transformed into a level 4 adventurer ready for battle. Her palms clenched, her green eyes went cold as ice, and the aura radiating from her made several people nearby unconsciously step back. Ryu-san. Seer called with a slightly worried voice. Stay here, Ryu ordered in a tone that brooked no argument. I'll be right back. Seer nodded obediently, maintaining the expression of a clueless waitress who didn't understand the situation. But when Ryu disappeared into the dark alley, Seer's smile faded slightly. Interesting, thought Freya. What could make Ryu react like that? The purple eyes hidden behind Seer's mask began to glow faintly. This special ability of the goddess of beauty allowed her to see the soul of every living being, the color, shape, and deepest essence of their existence. And in that dim alley, she saw something that captivated her. 3 souls. Note, Freya can use her perception to see from afar, even through walls, like when she sees souls from the top of Babel Tower. The first was a small child's soul, dull gray, that wavered, filled with fear and despair. Nothing special there, just ordinary suffering you could find anywhere. The second was Ryua's soul, bright green, that moved straight and sharp like a blade. Strong, steadfast, unshakable in its belief in justice. But also rigid, with no room for mercy or situational consideration. But the third one. So beautiful, Freya thought to herself, her breath catching slightly. The third soul was a storm. A storm raging inside a crystal ball, full of colors clashing and mixing in chaotic yet mesmerizing harmony. At its center was a silver core like tempered steel. This color represented stubborn determination, untapped potential, and an unbreakable will to survive. But surrounding it, other colors swirled in complex spirals, dark gray that shrouded like fog cynicism born from bitter experience, understanding that the world isn't always fair. Deep red that flashed like lightning, passion for life, strong survival instincts, and flashes of anger ready to explode at any moment. Deep blue that flowed within profound loneliness, longing for something that had been lost. And black that moved like shadows, unhealed trauma, gnawing regret. This isn't the soul of an ordinary child, thought Freya, her purple eyes unblinking. What a fascinating sight, thought Freya in Seer's mind, while Seer's face showed just the right worried expression for an innocent waitress. A storm full of potential, about to be struck by an uncompromising blade of green justice. What will happen to that intriguing soul? Will the silver at its center shatter into pieces? Or will it be forged into something stronger and more brilliant? I really want to see. The sound of hard impact echoed from inside the alley. Freya watched the colors in the young man's soul change. First, there was a surge of frustration that made the red blaze when he felt the situation was unfair. Then, there was a swirl of gray moving faster as he became confused, facing power far greater than his own. And finally, there was an explosion of all colors at once when his body was brutally struck by level 4 strength that held nothing back. Freya saw the silver light at the center of that soul dim drastically as the young man lost consciousness. But what pleased her was that the light didn't go out. It was still there, still glowing weakly, still trying to hold on. Beautiful, she thought with satisfaction. Even in a broken state, this soul keeps fighting. When Ryua returned from the alley, her steps were as calm as when she'd entered. There wasn't even a drop of blood on her neat clothes. Her expression had returned to neutral, as if she'd just finished a boring routine task. It's done, she said briefly. Eh? What's done? Seer asked innocently. Nothing you need to worry about, Ryua replied, starting to walk. Let's go back to the hostess. Seer went quiet for a moment, then suddenly cried out with very convincing panic. Ah, Ryua-san. The hair clip Mamma Mia gave me. I think I dropped it earlier. Seer patted her hair with somewhat hurried movements. Seer made a truly panicked face. She'll be so mad if I lose that hair clip. You go ahead to the hostess, okay? I'll look for it real quick. It must have fallen around here somewhere. Ryua paused, considering. I can help look, no need. Seer cut her off quickly. I was the careless one, so I should take responsibility. Besides, Mamma Mia's probably already waiting. I'll catch up soon. This excuse sounded very Seer, a clumsy waitress who could lose important stuff. Ryua would never suspect reasoning like this. All right, Ryua said, nodding. Don't take too long. Mamma Mia will ask questions if we're both late. Of course. I'll be quick. Seer waved cheerfully. See you at the hostess. Ryua walked away with her same efficient stride, disappearing into the crowd that was thinning as the afternoon wore on. After making sure Raiwa was really gone, Seer stood still for a few moments. She pretended to search for something on the ground, bending down and looking around with natural movements in case anyone was watching. But slowly, the entire aura around her began to change. First, the cheerful smile on her face faded, replaced by a calmer and more controlled expression. Then, the way she stood changed, her back straighter, her chin lifted slightly higher, and an aura of authority began radiating from her small frame. She was no longer Seer Flava, the innocent waitress. She was Freya, the goddess of beauty, one of the most feared and respected beings in Orario. With soundless steps, she entered the alley Raiwa had visited. The scene that greeted her wasn't surprising. A young man lay unconscious, his body covered in bruises and blood flowing from his nose and mouth. His breathing was labored but still regular. Freya showed no sympathy or mercy. Her eyes examined the young man like an expert appraising a damaged painting. She didn't hold back, but good, no permanent damage, she murmured softly. Raiwa knows exactly how hard to hit without killing, no permanent damage to his body. Just internal injuries and broken bones. Good. With her fingertip, Freya lifted the young man's chin, examining him like touching a precious fragile statue. A slightly surprised expression appeared on Freya's face but quickly became calm. Somehow she remembered again her conversation with God Uranus from some time ago. They were discussing reports about unusual activity on the early dungeon floors, when Uranus mentioned a rookie adventurer who had somehow managed to cause a commotion there. An adventurer from Hestia Familia, Uranus had said with a slightly amused tone. Just got his Falna a few days ago, but already making chaos. Freya remembered she hadn't paid much attention then. Just a little curious. Hestia Familia? The small familia led by that lowly goddess who was always fussing about money? The broke goddess? Not interesting. But now, seeing this soul spinning in its storm, she realized that this young man must be. Ah, so you're the one Uranus meant, thought Freya while continuing to observe the young man's face. The young man who caused chaos in the dungeon. No wonder your soul is so fascinating. Her purple eyes refocused on the soul spinning in the young man's chest. The colorful storm that had been so captivating was now moving slower, weaker, but still hadn't stopped. This soul, even though it's broken, it's still spinning, thought Freya, something that might be called admiration flickering in her eyes. Even after being crushed by level 4 power, it still hasn't given up. Still trying to rise. Its potential is too great to let it end here, Freya continued in her heart, her fingers still touching that wounded face. No. This game is too interesting to end now. I want to see how this beautiful soul will react after being destroyed and then, saved. From within her waitress robe, Freya pulled out a small bottle containing a clear liquid that shone silver. A rare elixir that even among the gods was hard to obtain, medicine capable of healing internal wounds and stabilizing someone on the brink of death. Carefully, she dripped one drop into the young man's mouth. The effect was almost immediate. His breathing became more regular, the bleeding stopped, and the silver core in his soul pulsed faintly, a sign that life was still strongly bound to his body. Enough to keep you alive, Freya whispered. Now let's see what you'll do next. The sound of footsteps echoed from the end of the alley. 2 tired-looking vagrants appeared, probably looking for shelter or leftover food. Freya stood and threw several Valis coins toward them. Both vagrants' eyes immediately widened seeing the glittering coins. Take that young man to the abandoned church in the southwest part of Orario, Freya commanded in a calm but undeniable voice. Place him carefully. After that, forget my face and this incident. Now. Both vagrants nodded with empty eyes. Her voice carried a gentle melody that made refusal feel impossible. They carefully lifted the young man's body and his weapon. Then walked in the direction Freya had indicated. Freya watched their retreating backs, then turned her attention back to the now empty alley. There was no trace showing this incident had ever happened. A thin smile appeared on her lips. How lucky for him. Or maybe, this is my luck. Her purple eyes gleamed with something dangerous, not kindness, not mercy, but the curiosity of a predator who had found interesting prey. With smooth movements, the cold aura around Freya faded. A sweet smile returned to her face, her purple eyes changed to bright blue, and her posture became that of an innocent waitress again. She was Seer Flava once more. Ah, found it, she exclaimed cheerfully while pretending to pick something up from the ground. My favorite hair clip. With light steps, Seer left the alley and returned to Aurorio's bustle. The golden afternoon swallowed her as if nothing had ever happened. Now. She stepped cheerfully toward the hostess of fertility. Show me, fascinating soul, how will you react after being destroyed and then saved by an unknown hand? Will you search for whoever helped you? Will you grow stronger from this experience? Or will you break down and give a different kind of performance? Whatever happens, I'm sure it'll be very entertaining. The evening breeze blew gently, carrying the scent of fresh bread and flowers from the market that was starting to empty. On the surface, nothing had changed in Aurario. Life continued as usual. Merchants closed their stalls. Children were called home by their parents. Adventurers began looking for dinner spots. And the young man lying unconscious in the old church, without realizing it, had become the first pawn in a chess game played by a goddess. Chapter 41, Chapter 40.5 Chapter 40.5, Author's Note, when was the last time you used your brain while reading? Welcome to the intermission chapter, or as you might need it, a beginner's guide to reading stories. Before you scroll to chapter 41 and write comments with your brain half dead, asking, why's he being paranoid now? Why's Kane changing so fast? Feels like the MC's getting weaker tbh, stop right there. Take a breath. Grab some water. And turn your brain on first. I'm gonna explain this short, sweet, and crystal clear here. I don't wanna waste time explaining this stuff. So I'll just make a quick story so it's easy to get. So here's the deal, there's this level 1 adventurer who just got robbed, then a bit later gets jumped and beaten unconscious by a level 4 hero without being able to fight back at all, in a place that's supposed to be safe, Aurario. He wakes up the next day, doesn't know who helped him, and his money's still gone. Weird if he gets a little cautious after that, right? He should just go back to being cheerful immediately, maybe buy some ice cream and take a stroll while greeting everyone, right? You get it so far? If you don't understand, read it a few times. That's it, authors signing off for now. Hope your brain comes back online before you write any comments. Chapter 42, Chapter 41 Chapter 41, Deception. It's been a week since that incident, the one that changed my life from pretty decent to permanently on high alert. When I first came to, all I felt was total confusion. I was lying on the small bed in the corner of the church room I'd gotten familiar with. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the small window, creating golden light patterns on the wooden floor. Why am I here? I mumbled while trying to sit up. My body felt weird. Not hurt, but there was this stiff feeling like I'd slept way too long. What confused me most was that I couldn't remember how I got here. The last thing I remembered, narrow alley, little kid, missing money, then Kane Kun. Goddess Hestia's voice broke through my thoughts. She came running from the kitchen with teary eyes, her black hair that's usually neat looking a bit messy. Thank goodness. You're finally awake. She immediately hugged me tight, too tight until I could barely breathe. Goddess, can't breathe. I whispered. Ah. Sorry. She let go but her hands stayed on my shoulders, her eyes checking my face carefully. Being stared at like that made me a little embarrassed. How do you feel? Does anything hurt? Dizzy? Nauseous? I'm fine, I think. but I scratched my head that was still a bit dizzy. Why am I here? I don't remember coming home. I spoke while looking at Goddess Hestia, and yeah, I saw Goddess Hestia's expression change to a mix of worry and anger. You don't remember? She asked while sitting on the edge of the bed. I found you passed out in front of the church door yesterday afternoon. Your face was covered in blood, your clothes were dirty and bloody, but weirdly there weren't any wounds on your body. Blood. I touched my face reflexively. But I don't feel any pain at all. That's what made me worried. Goddess Hestia stood up and started pacing restlessly. That much blood but no wounds. Then you passed out at the door with no memory? What really happened in the dungeon? My mind tried to remember what actually happened. Narrow alley. Thief kid. Green shadow moving fast. Incredible pain. Ryo lion. But how do I explain this to Goddess Hestia without making her panic or worse, getting into trouble with a level 4 adventurer? I paused for a moment, looking for the right words. There was a big commotion in the dungeon. Several groups of adventurers were fighting each other over monsters. The situation was chaos. A commotion. Goddess Hestia's eyes widened. You got involved in a fight? No, no. I raised my hands in a calming gesture. I just got caught in the crossfire. You know I never look for trouble, Goddess. Maybe I got hit by a thrown weapon or caught by a stray attack. That's why my face was bloody, but there weren't any serious wounds. Goddess Hestia stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. There was doubt in her eyes, but also very deep worry. You're sure that's all? She asked quietly while sitting back down, this time closer. Our faces were only a few inches apart, Goddess Hestia staring at me so intensely. You're not lying to me, are you, Kane? Her tone was gentle, but there was something in it that made me feel guilty. Not just a goddess's worry for her family member. There was something more, personal. Why would I lie? I answered while trying to smile. Besides, look, I'm fine, right? Maybe I was just exhausted so I passed out. Goddess Hestia stayed quiet for a long time, her eyes not leaving my face. There was an intensity in her gaze that made me uncomfortable, like she was trying to read every expression, every blink, every change in tone. As a goddess, Hestia could probably smell my lies. Her stare was too deep to avoid. Seeing that I was stubbornly staying quiet, Goddess Hestia finally gave up. All right, she said finally, but her voice still sounded unsure. What's important is you're awake and not seriously hurt. But promise me, if there's a problem, tell me right away. Whatever it is. Of course, Goddess. And she bit her lower lip, a gesture I always did when nervous. If someone's bothering you or hurting you, tell me. I don't care who they are or how strong they are. No one's allowed to hurt my family. There was a small fire in her eyes when she said that last sentence. Not explosive anger, but calm and dangerous determination. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of the figure who was once one of the most influential goddesses in Tenkai. Goddess. I whispered, touched by her worry. Ah, she suddenly stood up with a red face. I didn't say anything weird, did I? I mean, of course I'm worried. You're my only family member. If something happened to you, who would, feed me? Her reason sounded made up, but I didn't comment. Oh right, she suddenly remembered something. You must be hungry. Wait here, I'll make something. She rushed to the kitchen, leaving me with increasingly complicated thoughts. Not getting money yesterday means I have to work harder today. Looks like I was unconscious for a whole day. But what bothered me more was Goddess Hestia's reaction earlier. There was something in the way she looked at me, the way she spoke, that made me feel, no, maybe I'm just misunderstanding. If she knew I just interacted with a level 4 adventurer because of a stupid misunderstanding, her reaction might be way more extreme. That day I communicated normally with Goddess Hestia. The following days passed as usual. I'd wake up early, have a simple breakfast with Goddess Hestia, go to the dungeon, meet Uncle Eldrin. Meet Gob, hunt monsters, come home with decent results, occasionally buy bread at the usual place. My life looked so routine. Like I'd forgotten about the theft incident. The normal routine of a beginner adventurer. But something had changed in me. Something you couldn't see from the outside. Chapter 43, Chapter 42 Chapter 42, Paranoia. Every night, when Goddess Hestia was already asleep, I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling like an idiot, waiting for my breathing to stabilize so I could sleep. But only I knew that in my heart I had anger. That anger never went away. It actually got bigger every day. I was angry at the little kid who stole my money. I was angry at Ryu Lion who beat me up without giving me a chance to explain. Every time I let my guard down, the image of Ryu Lion beating me mercilessly would come back. I was angry, of course. I wanted revenge, of course. But I'm not that stupid. Complain to the guild? A level 1 adventurer accusing a level 4 hero? Even though Ryu Lion is a fugitive, if she got caught there's a good chance Freya Familia would cause problems. God Auranos who cares about stability would definitely step in and free Ryu so Orario wouldn't get chaotic. And I'd just become a laughing stock before getting kicked out of Orario. Brave. 100 times brave wouldn't be enough if the opponent is Freya Familia. I know Ryu is Seer's friend. If I touch Ryu, I'll attract Freya Familia's attention. No, thank you. I'm just level 1. If they attack, I can't even do anything. So, I'll keep this grudge. Wrap it up tight, and store it in the darkest corner of my heart. Someday, if I'm strong enough to stand before her as an equal opponent, I'll unwrap this package again. If not, let it rot there forever. Forget revenge. A week full of paranoia and buried anger. You could say being close to death made me experience some mental issues because that beating incident made me always dream that I was going to die. If it wasn't for Goddess Hestia hugging me, I'd probably have trouble sleeping. Right now I'm walking toward the guild with steps that, well, let's just call it maximum alert level. My hands never far from my sword handle. Every time someone moves too fast beside me, all my muscles immediately tense up like springs ready to jump. I walk along the edge of the road, avoiding crowds as much as possible. My eyes keep moving, scanning every corner, every alley, every suspicious shadow. Every few steps, I look back, making sure no one's following me. Paranoid? Me? No, this is called being careful, I mutter while continuing to walk in an unpredictable zigzag pattern. If someone observed my behavior, they'd probably think I'm crazy or a former spy on a secret mission. The reality is, I'm just a level 1 adventurer traumatized from getting beaten half to death. Reaching the guild, I immediately head to the exchange counter with quick steps. No time for casual chat or enjoying the atmosphere. Quick business, get money, go home. Magic stones from floor 6, I tell the cashier while taking out yesterday's hunting results. The cashier counts carefully while my eyes keep scanning the surrounding area. Who knows if there are suspicious little kids lurking around with bad intentions. Total 32,000 valis, the cashier says while handing over the money pouch. I accept that pouch with both hands like I'm holding the most precious treasure in the world, then immediately put it in my bag with overly protective movements. Thank you, I say quickly, then hurry away before anyone notices I'm carrying money. Luckily, Miss Ha and Ina are busy with their own business. No one's teasing me or wondering why I look like someone being chased by debt collectors. The journey home begins. I feel like everyone's looking at me with greedy eyes even though I know it's just my feeling. But still. My heart's beating a bit fast. Not because I'm tired, but because for me now, the streets of Orario aren't a friendly and pleasant place anymore. This is a minefield full of potential dangers. Little kids. Potential thieves. Adventurers walking fast. Possible enemies. Narrow alleys. Places to avoid at all costs. Focus. Don't let your guard down. Last time happened because I was careless, I whisper while continuing to walk with alert eyes. It won't happen again. What if next time it's not a thief, but someone with a knife? My mind is filled with worst-case scenarios that could happen. This week you could say I'm experiencing mental issues. Usually people are careful in the dungeon. But I'm an anomaly. The dungeon is the most comfortable place while the city is the dangerous place. At least that's how I see it. From simple robbery to ambushes by unknown familiars. I walk in an irregular pattern, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, occasionally stopping to pretend to look at merchandise while making sure the situation around me is safe. Maybe I really am too paranoid, I mutter while sighing. But better paranoid than having bad things happen again. While I'm drowning in cautious thoughts and careful steps, suddenly crash. Someone crashes into me from the side pretty hard. Not like the little kid that time, this collision makes my whole body stagger to the right. Sure enough, this city is dangerous, I can't let my guard down. In a split second, all my training with Gob, all the trauma from the incident a week ago, and all the paranoia that's been building up in my head for a week, exploded into one reflexive action. I don't think. I don't weigh options. I just move. Thief. Again. That's the only thought that crosses my mind. My body spins with speed that surprises even me. I feel even a bit stronger. Does emotion affect my strength? My right hand shoots forward with precision I've never felt before. I feel like I've been injected with chicken blood. Grab. With a grip that feels like steel pliers, I grab the neck of the person who crashed into me, pushing them against the nearest alley wall with full force. Thud. Her back hits the stone wall with a pretty loud sound. This is a move to disable and intimidate, not to kill, but still very aggressive. Way more aggressive than I've ever been to anyone. Give back the money. My words are cut off. The adrenaline that was blazing earlier subsides as fast as it came. My eyes that were wild with anger now focus on the figure I'm choking. Soft gray hair. Very familiar grayish blue eyes. A surprised and slightly pained face. Seer Flava. My entire body feels frozen instantly. My blood feels like it turns to ice in the blink of an eye. All the courage, aggression, and paranoia that made me move like an experienced fighter just now, evaporates just like that. Replaced by the purest terror. No. No, 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 my mind screams hysterically. Of all the people in Orario, why does it have to be her? I just choke Seer. I attack the one person who's most dangerous to make an enemy of. My head spins quickly, looking for a way out of this situation. But all I can do is stare at Seer's face that I'm choking with my expression that probably looks like someone who just realized they pressed a nuclear bomb button. I know I can't show my real fear. I have to fix the situation, right now, or I'll become dust within hours. However, all Freya Familia members are crazy, if they find out I attacked their goddess. I'm done for. My grip on her neck loosens immediately, like all strength evaporated from my arm. I step back, my hands trembling violently as I raise them in the air like I'm completely surrendering. I try to smile, but what comes out is a stiff grin that probably looks terrifying. Miss. Oh my God, forgive me, my voice shakes like leaves in strong wind. I'm really sorry. Really? Seer coughs softly KHM while rubbing her neck with one hand. Did his eyes just flash for a moment, she murmurs quietly, almost like talking to herself. Or is it just my imagination? I didn't mean to. That That was just a reflex. I continue with a voice getting higher from panic. I thought you were someone else. A thief. Yesterday I got robbed, so now I'm overly alert. My explanation sounds like the rambling of a crazy person. Sears still coughing, her eyes not leaving my face. Seconds pass feeling like hours. I wait for the verdict. Wait for her to scream, or call for help, or do something that'll end my life as a free adventurer in Orario. But what happens next? Chapter 44, Chapter 43, Chapter 43, the scream that destroyed everything. Right now Sears still coughing, her eyes staring at me with this weird intensity. For just a split second, I saw something that made my blood freeze. Not fear. Not pain. But something cold. And a smile. Just a flash, like lightning, but enough to make me realize that. My instincts screamed like a broken alarm, danger. Those blue-gray eyes stared at me with an intensity that wasn't normal for someone who just got choked. There was something behind them that made me feel like a mouse trapped in a cage. Before I could process what I just saw, before I could react, before I could even blink, Seer took a deep breath. Help. Someone, help me. That shriek exploded from her mouth without warning, echoing down the street with panic that was too perfect. Too practiced. No, no, no. Pure panic took over me. No. Wait. Don't scream. Without thinking, my left hand reflexively moved to cover her mouth. Biggest mistake of my life. The moment my hand touched her mouth, I immediately realized how stupid this was. But it was too late. Too late for anything. From the end of the alley, I heard running footsteps getting closer. Lots of footsteps. What was that? Someone screamed for help. Sounded like a woman. From this way. Within seconds, the end of the alley was filled with people. 5, 10, 15 people who stopped with the same shocked expression. The scene they saw was pretty clear, a young man in adventurer gear standing near a young woman sitting on the ground, coughing while holding her throat. Red marks clearly visible on Seer's white neck, traces from when I grabbed her. The girl's face was pale, her eyes teary, her body trembling. And me. I was standing over her with a panicked face that definitely looked guilty. Animal. What did you do to her? You bastard. I backed up with my hands raised. Wait. You don't understand. This what? A middle-aged man with muscular arms stepped forward, rolling up his sleeves. You think you can do this in the middle of the city? It's not like that. She bumped into me and I shut up. A middle-aged woman joined in shouting while helping Seer, who was still sitting there, her body shaking violently. Miss, are you okay? The woman gently stroked Seer's hair. Oh God, look at your neck, it's so red. Seer didn't answer. She just stared blankly ahead, occasionally coughing while touching her reddened neck. Like she was showing evidence. Look. Look what you did to her, the muscular guy pointed at me with a finger trembling from anger. She's traumatized. Such an innocent girl. The word innocent was like a knife stabbing my chest. Innocent. They saw Seer as an innocent, blameless girl. Only I knew she wasn't that innocent. Meanwhile I. Fucking rapist. That word came out of someone's mouth in the crowd. My whole body went cold instantly. I am not. Shut up. Liar. The muscular guy moved forward threateningly. I backed up, but there was a wall behind me. If you're not, why were you choking her? Why did she scream for help? Because I panicked. This is a misunderstanding my ass. We all saw the marks on that girl's neck. A criminal. Like a rapist. That word again and again. Every time someone said it, my chest felt like it was being stabbed. That's what they saw when they looked at me. Not as a human. Not as an innocent kid trying his best, but a rapist. Wham! A punch landed in my stomach before I could dodge it. I fell backward, my back hitting the stone wall. Stop! I screamed while raising both hands. I was so panicked, I didn't know how to solve this problem. My brain seemed to have stopped working. I didn't do anything to her. Bullshit. This time the one hitting me was a guy my age. His fist hit my left cheek. You bastard. Trying to assault such an innocent girl. Tears almost came out of my eyes. Not from physical pain, but from that accusation. I could dodge. Could even fight back. But fighting back would only make me look more guilty. I could only block and retreat, hoping I could explain. Listen to me. This is a misunderstanding. I never meant to what? Rape her. No. That scream came out so desperately that some people went quiet for a moment. I never, would never. My voice was shaking, almost breaking. I'm not that kind of person. But the crowd didn't care about my desperate denial. All rapists say that. If you're not, why did she scream? Why is her neck so red? More and more people gathered. More screaming. More accusations. And in the middle of the increasingly angry crowd, I caught a glimpse of Seer. She was still sitting leaning against the wall, surrounded by women comforting her. Her face was pale, trembling, looking like the perfect victim. But occasionally, when no one was looking, her eyes would glance my way. And I saw it again. That flash. Cold. Calculated. Satisfied. Not the eyes of a traumatized victim, but the eyes of a predator enjoying watching its prey get trapped. I'm confused. Is Goddess Freya super pissed at me because I choked her? Either way, I've never been involved with her, this is the first time. Seems like I've offended her. My life is seriously in danger. This is on purpose, I whispered in my heart, feeling terror deeper than before. She deliberately. But there was no time to think about that. Still trying to make excuses. Look how evil he is. Beat him until he can't get up. Chapter 45, Chapter 44, Chapter 44, The perfect victim. More hands reached for me. I dodged, blocked, backed away as much as I could. But no matter what, two hands can't fight dozens of hands. But no one wanted to listen. An adventurer with a short sword was already charging at me. People like you don't deserve to breathe. I drew my sword reluctantly, just to survive. Clang. Our swords clashed. I was forced to parry attack after attack, but I didn't dare strike back. Attacking them would only strengthen the accusation that I was dangerous. Please. You're misunderstanding. I didn't shut your mouth, rapist. That word again. Like a whip that kept beating my soul. Another punch. This time to my ribs. I grimaced in pain but still didn't fight back. Tears started flowing down my cheeks without me being able to stop them. Strangely, at this moment I'm not worried about myself but about Goddess Hestia. In the middle of the chaos, I caught a glimpse of Seer still crying and sobbing. There was something about the way she cried too perfect, too dramatic, that made me sure she was enjoying this. Bug. Someone kicked my stomach from the side. I fell to the ground, my sword thrown away. Beat him up. Don't show mercy to this animal. Kicks and punches started raining down from all directions. I curled up, trying to protect my head and vital parts, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. Rapist. Kicks and punches started raining down from all directions. That word would stick to me forever in Aurario. No matter what actually happened. No matter what explanation. In everyone's eyes, I'd always be the guy who once tried to do something to an innocent girl. Goddess Hestia would hear about it. Everyone would talk about it. That rapist from Hestia Familia. The one who attacked that innocent girl. My reputation. Goddess Hestia's reputation. Everything would be destroyed. Goddess Hestia. I whispered between groans of pain while enduring the hurt. How am I gonna explain this to her? She'd hear that her familia's only member got caught as a rapist. She'd be ashamed. She'd be disappointed. And when she smiled at me, that smile would disappear. Replaced by a look of disbelief. A look that would hurt way more than all these curses. Maybe she'd kick me out of the familia. No. Worse, she'd be looked down on by other goddesses for having a member like me. Tears started flowing, mixing with blood dripping from my nose. Not from physical pain, but from endless regret. Why did I have to be paranoid? Why did I have to suspect everyone? Why did I have to reflexively attack without thinking? All because of the trauma from Ryo Lion's beating a week ago. That trauma made me lose control and ended up destroying my life. Suddenly the image of Goddess Hestia's face panicking, crying, angry at me entered my mind. No, I have to get out of here. Somehow, I have to stop. A loud voice broke through the raging crowd. Ganesha Familia. Everyone disperse. That booming bass voice made everyone fall silent instantly. Through eyes that were starting to swell, I saw 3 figures in Ganesha Familia uniforms breaking through the crowd with heavy steps. The one in front was a tall man with a half-face elephant mask, one of the captains. Move. Move. Official business. The crowd that was raging before now backed away obediently, though their faces still showed anger and disgust when looking at me. What's going on here? His voice was deep and echoing. Captain Hashana, the merchant from before, immediately pointed at me with a trembling finger. This man attacked that girl. We saw him choking her neck and covering her mouth ourselves. Captain Hashana turned to me, still gasping, clothes torn, face bruised, eyes teary. Then his eyes shifted to Seer, who was still sitting leaning against the wall, surrounded by several women comforting her. Red marks were clearly visible on her neck. The captain's expression changed instantly. Miss, Captain Hashana crouched in front of Seer with a gentle voice. Calm down. Tell us what happened. Seer lifted her tear-stained face. Her eyes were teary, her lips trembling perfectly. I was walking alone, she whispered almost inaudibly. Suddenly that man bumped into me and she touched her bruised neck, as if still feeling the pain. He grabbed my neck really hard and pushed me against the wall. When I screamed for help, he panicked and covered my mouth by force. I thought he was trying to rape me. Her acting, perfect. People looked at Seer with pitying eyes, then looked at me like they were looking at garbage. Her voice trembled, almost like a whisper. He tried. Those words hung in the air. Unfinished, but the implication was crystal clear. The Ganesha Familia captain frowned. His eyes shifted to me with a completely changed look. Cold. Full of contained anger. Judging. I saw in his eyes what I'd see in everyone's eyes from now on. Disgust. Anger. Accusation. Take him. 2 Ganesha Familia members immediately stepped toward me. Wait. Wait a minute. I screamed while backing up, tears flowing freely down my cheeks. This is a misunderstanding. I can explain. You'll have plenty of time to explain to us, the captain answered with a cold tone that shattered my soul. Drag him away. No. Listen to me first. I'm not a rapist. This isn't fair. I didn't do anything. My desperate scream echoed in the narrow alley. But big hands were already gripping my arms. As I was dragged to my feet, my gaze met Seer's eyes once more. For a moment, her mask of sadness slipped. I saw a thin smile on her lips. A smile of victory. That wasn't a human smile. That was the expression of satisfaction from a being who had shaped someone's fate just to watch it slowly crumble. Like my life was a play, and she was the script writer. The smile of a goddess who had just destroyed an ordinary human's life for her own amusement. It immediately destroyed my psychological defenses. Strong hands gripped both my arms, pulling me roughly. But strangely, I didn't feel the pain from that rough grip. The punches from the mob earlier didn't hurt either. The disgusted stares from dozens of people around me didn't affect me anymore. My mind was empty. Then one image appeared with painful clarity. Goddess Hestia's smiling face. Goddess Hestia hugging me when I sleep. Goddess Hestia working hard to cook for me. Goddess Hestia whose eyes sparkled every time she saw me. Goddess Hestia who would wake up tomorrow morning and hear from all of Orario that her beloved child, Hestia Familia's only member, was a rapist. Rapist. That word spun around in my head cruelly. They're calling me a rapist. My reputation, completely destroyed. It doesn't matter. I can live as trash. I can spend the rest of my life in prison or exiled. But Goddess. Goddess Hestia. The goddess who gave me a home when I had nothing. The goddess who was so kind, so pure, so proud of me, now she'll be known throughout Orario as the goddess of the Familia whose member is a rapist. This shame, it's not just mine. I'm dragging her name through the mud. I'm destroying her honor. I'm betraying the only family I've ever had. All resistance in my body vanished instantly. My legs that were trying to stay standing became limp like rubber. My head hung in total defeat, chin almost touching my chest. My eyes that had been burning with the desire to explain were now empty and lifeless. I no longer cared what would happen to me. My life ended the moment the word rapist first came out of Seer's mouth. The Ganesha Familia members started leading me through the crowd that was still cursing and insulting. Their voices sounded like distant buzzing in my ears. Damn animal. Death penalty for rapists. Disgracing the Familia name. I walked like a living corpse, dragged by rough hands without any resistance whatsoever. All I could do was mumble one name with a voice that was almost inaudible, like the last prayer of someone about to die, Goddess Hestia. I whispered as I was dragged away from the crowd still hurling insults. Forgive me. Forgive me for staining this Familia's name. In the distance, I could still hear Seer's voice screaming, thank you. Thank you for saving me. Her acting was perfect until the very last second. And I could only surrender, heading to prison with the label rapist that would stick forever. Chapter 46, Chapter 45 Chapter 45, Morning Gossip, POV in a, Orario, Guild. The next morning I got to the guild this morning with this weird feeling. For some reason, the air felt different than usual. Usually this place is buzzing with adventurers looking for info or trading in their hunt results, but this morning, there was something unsettling in the guild's atmosphere. Small groups of adventurers were clustering in the corners, whispering with expressions that ranged from shocked, disgusted, to this dark satisfaction. Even from a distance, I could catch some words floating through the air, heard last night. Hestia Familia. Crazy, right? My instincts as an experienced advisor told me this wasn't ordinary gossip. There was tension in the way they were talking, like some major drama had just gone down. Ina-chan. Miss Ha's cheerful voice made me turn around. The pink-haired girl approached me with her usual smile, but I could see some unease in her eyes. Morning, Miss Ha, I greeted while setting down the documents I'd brought on my desk. What's up? Why's the guild atmosphere kinda weird today? Miss Ha glanced over at the group of adventurers who were whispering, then looked at me with an unusual expression, a mix of uncertainty and concern. Ina-chan, have you heard about Kane-kun yet? My heart immediately started beating faster. Kane. What about Kane? Did something happen to him? About what? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm even though this bad feeling was starting to creep in. Miss Ha sat in the chair next to my desk, her voice lowering to a whisper. Last night, apparently he. Before Miss Ha could continue, the conversation from the group of adventurers near us started getting clearer. They were a mixed group, some level 1 and 2 adventurers I often saw coming to the guild. Did you hear already? What happened last night? A blonde guy in leather armor whispered while looking around. Yeah, the Hestia Familia member, right? The one with just one person, his friend replied, a brown-haired woman. What was his name? Kane, a bearded adventurer, joined the conversation. My hand holding the documents immediately tensed up. They're talking about Kane? Right, Kane Ryodan. I heard he tried attacking a waitress from Hostess of Fertility. The blonde continued with this tone like he had exclusive info. Oh my god, seriously? That's insane. And he looks so innocent too. The brown-haired woman shook her head with a disgusted expression. My world suddenly stopped spinning. I was a bit confused. Kane, attacking a waitress? No way. Is there some misunderstanding here? You really can't judge people by their looks. Those types are the most dangerous. The bearded guy nodded like he was some psychology expert. Wait, by the way, is his name Kane Ryodan? I thought his name was just Kane, a young man asked confusedly while raising an eyebrow. Kane? Ryodan? Who cares? The point is he's disgusting, the blonde answered impatiently. Yeah right, since he doesn't have a last name we should just call him Kane the Trash, the brown-haired woman added with this nasty smile. I felt anger starting to surge in my chest, but then quickly held my breath. Calm down, Ina. They're just gossiping without any basis. Don't get provoked. No. Trash can still be recycled, it's still useful. Better to just call him toxic waste, the bearded guy chuckled, like he'd just made some funny joke. Ha ha ha, toxic waste. That fits, they laughed together. This time my anger really exploded. How dare they talk about Kane like that? Kane, who's always polite, who always listens to my advice seriously, whose eyes light up every time he gets dungeon info. Slam. My hand hit the desk without me realizing it, making a loud sound that startled Miss Ha and some people around. Ina-chan. Miss Ha was shocked. I snapped back to reality and immediately covered my mouth with my hand, my face turning red from embarrassment and mixed anger. Sorry, I whispered to Miss Ha. I lost control for a second. Taking a deep breath, I tried to calm myself down. Miss Ha, I whispered with a voice that was still trembling slightly. What really happened? Miss Ha looked at me with sympathetic eyes, then whispered softly, apparently, last night he tried to rape a waitress from Hostess of Fertility in an alley nearby. There were lots of eyewitnesses, and Ganesha Familia immediately arrested him. My head immediately started buzzing. No way, those words spontaneously came out of my mouth, my voice barely audible. In another corner of the guild, 3 level 2 adventurers were shaking their heads with disgusted expressions. How shameful! People like that don't deserve to be adventurers. Yeah, just imagine. Only level 1 but already cocky, now his behavior's like this. Poor goddess Hestia. Has only one member, turns out he's trash. I bit my lip, trying to hold back the emotions surging again. They don't even know Kane. How can they say he's cocky? Ina-chan. Miss Ha called my name gently. Are you okay? You look really pale. I turned to Miss Ha, trying to stay calm despite being shocked. Miss Ha. I know Kane. Really well. He's not that kind of person. But Ina-chan, Miss Ha said with surprise, this case is already official. Ganesha Familia stepped in immediately. There must be strong evidence. Then another conversation started becoming audible, that's why you shouldn't just accept any members. Small familias like that are usually desperate, so their standards are low. Exactly. Look, the ones accepted by other familias are chosen ones. Someone like Cain, well, you know. A female adventurer chimed in with a cynical tone, haven't you heard the gossip? Apparently he's obsessed with Ace Wallenstein. Like a stalker. Oh yeah. I heard that too. So creepy, right? Right, that's why it's not surprising he could do something like this. Obsessive types like that are dangerous. This time I couldn't hold back anymore. I stood up from my chair with a sudden movement. Wait a minute, my voice came out louder than I intended. All eyes immediately turned to me. I realized everyone was staring at me and my face immediately turned red. Oh God, what am I doing? Sorry, I sat back down quickly, trying to calm myself. I was just shocked by the news. Miss Ha looked at me worriedly. Ina-chan, are you alright? But those gossipers didn't stop. One of them even commented, wow, Ina-san seems to be really defending that Cain. Maybe she has a crush on her client? Hee. Or maybe she's also a victim of Cain's seduction. That's why she's defending him to the death. Could be. Perverted adventurers like that usually start with the closest people first. This time my anger really exploded. Shut up. I screamed while hitting the desk once more, harder than before. The entire guild fell silent. Even Miss Ha stepped back because she was startled seeing my facial expression. You're going too far, my voice trembled with anger. Now you're even daring to slander me too. Rose immediately stood up from her desk and approached us. Ina. What's happening here? She asked in a firm tone. I saw everyone staring at me with a mix of shock and discomfort. My chest was heaving with anger, but then I realized what I'd done. Oh God. I yelled in the guild. At work. In front of everyone. My face immediately went pale and my hands trembled. I stammered, seeing all those pairs of eyes staring at me. Sorry, I lost control. I sat back down slowly, covering my face with both hands. What have I done? This is so unprofessional. I've embarrassed myself and the guild. Ina, Rose said in a gentler tone. I know you're shocked about your client, but you need to be able to control your emotions at work. I know, I whispered from behind my hands. Sorry, Rose. I didn't mean to. It's fine, Rose patted my shoulder. What matters is you realize it now. But next time, don't let it happen again, okay? I nodded weakly, still feeling extremely embarrassed. Miss Ha sat back down next to me and whispered, Ina-chan, I know you're angry because they started dragging your name into it. But you need to be more careful. The adventurers who were gossiping earlier now looked awkward and started dispersing, uncomfortable with the recent incident. I took a deep breath, trying to fully calm myself. Miss Ha, I whispered after feeling calmer. About that accusation of obsession with Ace Wallenstein, that doesn't make sense. Why? Miss Ha asked curiously. Cain only became an adventurer when Loki Familia had already been diving deep floors for a long time. He's never even met Ace Wallenstein directly. How could he be obsessed with someone he's never met? Miss Ha fell silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. You're right about that. That is weird. But then from the entrance, a group of new adventurers came in and immediately joined what was left of the crowd. Hey, what was all that commotion earlier? A black-haired man asked. Oh, there was an incident earlier. Miss Ina got angry defending her client who was arrested for harassment, one of the original group answered. Oh, so she's really close with the perpetrator, huh? The black-haired guy nodded knowingly. I felt anger starting to surge again, but this time I bit my lip and counted to 10 in my head. Ina-chan, Miss Ha saw me struggling with my emotions. Don't think about their comments. I nodded and took a deep breath. You're right. I need to be more professional. But in my heart, my anger was still burning. Not just because of the accusations against Cain, but also because of how easily they slandered people without clear evidence. The guild door opened with a loud sound, drawing everyone's attention. A Ganesha Familia member entered with heavy steps, heading to the information desk. Official announcement, his voice boomed throughout the room, making all conversations stop. My heart beat fast. I already knew what he was going to say, but still. Cain from Hestia Familia has been detained on charges of attempted assault and sexual harassment against a citizen of Orario. Investigation is ongoing. Hestia Familia is temporarily suspended from all guild activities until this case is resolved. A moment of silence, then an explosion of whispers louder than before. It's really official. So it's really true then. Poor goddess Hestia. A suspended familia, how embarrassing. I felt my chest tighten and my hands started trembling again. This time not from anger, but from deep shock and sadness. No way, I whispered, my voice almost inaudible. Ina-chan, Miss Ha held my trembling hand. Maybe you should rest for a bit. You look really pale. I'm fine, I lied, trying to control the tremor in my voice. Rose Fanet from the desk next to me turned toward me with a sympathetic expression. Ina, are you okay? You look really devastated. I turned to Rose. Rose, about Cain, that can't be true. Rose looked at me with a sympathetic expression. I know he's one of your advisor clients you care about most. Must be shocking. But Ina, this case is already official. There were lots of eyewitnesses. Even Ganesha Familia immediately took over. But my voice trembled. I know him. He's not that kind of person. Ina, Rose interrupted gently but firmly. I know this is difficult. But sometimes we don't really know someone. Especially in matters like this. Rose is right, Ina-chan, Miss Ha nodded, her face showing concern. Even though I know you're close to Cain, but the evidence. I fell silent, staring blankly at the files on my desk. Memories of conversations with Cain spun in my head. The way he talked about dungeons with sparkling eyes, about his dreams, about goddess Hestia whom he loved so much. The way he always apologized if he felt he was bothering me with questions, the way he listened to my advice so seriously. The way he even blushed and got nervous when Miss Ha just joked around with him. Miss Ha, I whispered. Do you remember how Cain reacted when you teased him? Miss Ha fell silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. He was always nervous and blushing. Even over small jokes. How could someone who can't even handle light teasing from a friend possibly? I couldn't finish my sentence. Ina-chan, Rose who heard our conversation also chimed in. I understand your feelings, but don't let yourself get trapped in denial. Sometimes people we know can hide their dark sides. I felt anger starting to rise again, but this time I tried hard to hold it back. I know they're just trying to help in their own way. I understand your concerns, I said with a voice trying to be calm, even though my hands were still trembling. But I'm not in denial. I just trust my judgment as an experienced advisor. Experience as an advisor doesn't always include judging someone's character in personal matters, Rose said carefully. I bit my tongue and counted to 10. Maybe, I finally answered with a flat voice. But my gut feeling says there's something wrong with this case. Ina-chan, Miss Ha said gently, maybe we should just wait for the investigation results. If he's really innocent, it'll definitely come to light. I nodded weakly, even though in my heart I knew I couldn't just sit around waiting. There had to be something I could do. There had to be a way to help Cain. But for now, all I could do was try to control my emotions and stay professional at work. With great effort to calm myself, I tried to continue my work, even though my mind kept drifting to Kane, who might be scared in a detention cell, wondering why all this was happening to him. I spent the rest of the day with this incredible feeling of anxiety. Chapter 47, Chapter 46, Chapter 46, Helpless Goddess Hestia, Hestia's POV. On the streets of Orario, I'm walking with heavy steps toward the market. My chest feels tight with this anxiety I can't even explain. Kane-kun didn't come home last night. Usually, even when he comes back late, he always tells me, or at least gets home before midnight. But last night, nothing. No word at all. I'm trying to calm myself down. Maybe Kane-kun got lost or something. Maybe he spent the night in the dungeon cause he was too tired to come back. But this anxiety, why does it feel like something seriously wrong? I'm probably just worrying too much, I think while shaking my head. Kane-kun, I know him. He's strong. He can take care of himself. But still, why does my chest feel so tight like this? At the market, I'm wandering around completely unfocused. My mind keeps drifting to Kane-kun. Bread for dinner? Or maybe buy some meat for him. But I even forgot to bring enough money. My head's totally all over the place today. When I stop in front of the fruit shop, trying to decide if I have enough money to buy some sweet potatoes, these two middle-aged women next to me are chatting pretty loudly. Poor goddess Hestia, huh? My ears immediately lock onto that conversation. They're talking about me? What's so pitiful about me? Yeah. The second woman answers while shaking her head. Having only one familia member, and he acts so disgustingly like that. My heart starts beating like crazy. Disgusting behavior? One member? Wait, are they talking about? No way. I whisper softly, still trying to convince myself that I heard wrong. I heard he tried to rape some poor girl last night. In the alley near Hostess of Fertility. Time feels like it stops. My breath gets caught in my throat. The world around me suddenly becomes so quiet, like all the market sounds disappear except for my heartbeat getting louder and louder. No. No, no, no. Yeah, his name's Kane, right? Member of Hestia Familia. I heard he already got arrested by Ganesha Familia. The sweet potato I was holding falls from my hand, rolling to the ground with a dull thud that sounds so loud in my ears. No. I whisper, my voice barely audible. My body starts shaking. Kane-kun, they're saying Kane-kun. No way. There's gotta be a mistake. They've definitely got the wrong person. Both women turn toward me with shocked expressions, then their eyes widen when they recognize me. Oh. Goddess Hestia. One of them says with this awkward tone and pity. Their eyes look at me with this gaze that makes me sick. Not respect. Not admiration. But pity. Pity for the goddess whose family member is. No. I shake my head hard, tears starting to fill my eyes. That's a lie. You're talking about someone else. That's not my Kane-kun. Goddess. The first woman tries to say in this gentle tone, like talking to a little kid who won't accept reality. We heard it straight from a neighbor who saw the arrest. Brown-haired boy with brown eyes, member of Hestia Familia. No. I scream, making several people around us turn to look. Kane-kun would never. He would never do something like that. But the more I scream, the more certain I become that they're really talking about Kane-kun. His physical features. His familia. Everything matches. Kane-kun isn't like that, my voice trembles, tears starting to flow. He's kind. He's gentle. He. The two women exchange glances with awkward expressions. Goddess. The second woman tries to say again. Maybe he was hiding his true nature from the goddess. Sometimes people like that are good at hiding. Shut up. Anger starts boiling up in my chest. How dare they say Kane-kun was hiding his true nature from me? I'm his goddess. I know him better than anyone. You don't know Kane-kun. You don't know how good he is. How much he cares about me. He would never, but the fact is he's already been arrested, goddess, the first woman says with this tone that's getting impatient. Ganesha Familia couldn't have made a wrong arrest. There's gotta be evidence and eyewitnesses. Those words hit me like a hard slap across the face. Arrested. Ganesha Familia. Evidence. Eyewitnesses. If it's really true that Kane-kun got arrested, why don't I know? Why didn't anyone tell me? No. I step back, my head spinning. There's gotta be a mistake. There's gotta be some misunderstanding. Kane-kun. Kane-kun couldn't. Goddess Hestia, the second woman says with this tone like she's giving advice. Maybe the goddess should go home and don't talk like you know anything. The anger that's been boiling finally explodes. My blue eyes blaze, and without realizing it, my divine aura starts leaking from my body. You don't know anything about Kane-kun. You just heard some gossip and immediately believed it? The air around me starts feeling heavy. Several people in the market start feeling uncomfortable and turn toward us. Kane-kun is a good kid. He works hard. He cares about me. He would never hurt anyone, let alone. I can't say that word. The word they're accusing Kane-kun of. Goddess, please calm down, the first woman says with a voice that's starting to sound scared, feeling the pressure of my aura. You were just what? My aura gets even stronger. Some fruits at the nearby stalls start shaking. How dare you slander Kane with that filthy gossip? Without realizing it, my hand grabs the arm of the woman who spoke first. My eyes glow red with anger that's completely out of control. Sorry. Sorry, goddess, the woman screams in fear, feeling the unnatural strength from my grip. People around us start backing away, some even falling because of the pressure from the divine aura leaking from my body. Only that scream of fear makes me realize what I'm doing. I let go of my grip and back away with ragged breathing. Everyone in the market is staring at me. But not with respect like people usually look at a goddess. They're staring at me with fear and pity. Pity for the goddess who lost control defending a family member who. No, I think while shaking my head. I won't believe it. I have to find out for myself. I have to meet Kane-kun and hear it directly from him. Without saying anything else, I run. I run, leaving the market, leaving those pitying stares, toward the one place that might give me answers. Ganesha Familia. Running with all my strength, I arrive at Ganesha Familia headquarters with ragged breathing, my hair a mess, my eyes red from anger and panic. My legs tremble as I kick the door hard, making the Ganesha Familia member on duty jump in shock. I want to see Kane-kun. Now. Goddess Hestia, that member stutters, his eyes widening seeing my messed up condition. But I don't care about any procedures. I scream, my voice echoing throughout the room. I want to see Kane-kun right now. That commotion draws the attention of several other members. I hear heavy footsteps coming, and someone with a familiar bass voice appears. Goddess Hestia. I turn and see Hoshana walking toward me with a serious expression. He's the same guy I know, he usually stands guard in the city, I run into him a lot. Hoshana. I immediately lunge at him, grabbing his uniform desperately. Where's Kane-kun? I want to see him now. There's a huge misunderstanding here. Hoshana looks at me with this expression that's hard to read. There's a mix of sympathy and professional firmness that makes me uncomfortable. I understand your feelings, but don't say you understand. I scream, tears starting to flow again. Kane-kun could never do what you're accusing him of. He's not that kind of person. He's never even spoken harshly to me, let alone to other people. I feel the stares of other members gathering around us. Their gazes, some pitying, some uncomfortable, some that seem to say this poor goddess won't accept reality. Goddess Hestia, Hoshana says with a tone trying to stay calm. This is a serious criminal case. There's a victim, there are many eyewitnesses. The suspect isn't allowed to meet anyone during the initial investigation. But I'm his goddess. I protest, my voice shaking. I'm his family. I have the right to not in a case like this. Hoshana cuts me off firmly, his tone getting colder. Sorry, goddess. Rules are rules. Even for the suspect's family. The word suspect stabs my heart like a dagger. Suspect. They're calling Kane-kun a suspect. But he's not guilty. My voice becomes a desperate whisper. You don't know him like I know him. Kane-kun he's. Words get stuck in my throat. How do I explain to strangers about the Kane-kun I know? Kane-kun who always looks at me with gentle eyes. Kane-kun who sleeps hugging me every night like a little kid afraid his mom will leave. Kane-kun who couldn't do what they're accusing him of. That'll be determined by the investigation, Hoshana answers, his tone softening slightly seeing my despair. I suggest the goddess go home and wait for further developments. How long? I ask with a hoarse voice. How long is the investigation? That depends on the evidence and testimony we collect. Could be a few days, could be a few weeks. A few weeks. Kane-kun could be trapped in there for weeks because of accusations that can't possibly be true. I feel my world crumbling. Not just because of the accusations against Kane-kun, but also because of this incredible feeling of helplessness. In heaven, I'm a goddess. Here, in the mortal world, with a small and powerless familia, my name doesn't have any power at all. I can't protect the family member I care about most. But he's not guilty. I repeat again, my voice barely audible. I stand there for a while, my body shaking, eyes teary staring at the cold floor. So small. So useless. My family. The only family I love more than life, is suffering somewhere inside this building, and I can't do anything about it. With heavy steps, I turn and walk out of Ganesha Familia headquarters. I walk aimlessly through Orario's streets. My eyes empty, my steps uncertain. How could this happen? I think while dragging my feet. Yesterday Kane-kun was still smiling at me when he leveled up. Now he's. Wherever I go, I hear whispers, that's goddess Hestia. The one whose member is a rapist. Poor thing, having only one member, and he acts like that. Every one of those words is like a knife stabbing my heart. Not because they're insulting me, but because they're insulting Kane-kun. Kane-kun who always came home with sparkling eyes telling stories about the dungeon. Goddess, I managed to beat a 6th-floor monster today. Goddess, I made good money today, let's buy delicious food later. Kane-kun who always helped with housework even when he was tired. Goddess just rest, I'll do the dishes. Goddess, let me cook dinner tonight. Kane-kun who slept hugging me like a little kid afraid of losing his mom. And now they're saying that kid who's so innocent, who cares so much about me, is a. No, I shake my head hard. Kane-kun isn't like that. It's impossible he did what they're accusing him of. Goddess Hestia. A voice calling my name makes me stop. I turn and see a half-elf with brown hair in a guild uniform. Pointed ears. I try to remember. You're Kane-kun's advisor at the guild, right? Ina nods, her face showing the same anxiety I'm feeling. I'm Kane-kun's advisor at the guild, Ina says with a slightly trembling voice. And I also don't believe this accusation. My eyes immediately light up with the first hope all day. You don't believe it either, my voice shakes with relief. Finally there's someone who doesn't immediately judge Kane-kun. There's something wrong with this case, Ina says in a low voice, her eyes glancing around to make sure no one's listening. I know Kane-kun. He's not that kind of person. His character, his personality, nothing shows any tendency to do something like this. I feel tears of relief flowing down my cheeks. You believe he's not guilty? I whisper, my voice full of gratitude. I can't promise anything, Ina says carefully. But I'll try to look for information from inside the guild. Maybe there are details that were missed, or there's something that doesn't match up in the report. Ina looks at my hopeful eyes and adds with a firmer tone, please don't give up, goddess. If Kane-kun really isn't guilty, the truth will definitely come out. For the first time since hearing that terrible news, I feel a glimmer of hope. I'm not alone. There's someone who also believes in Kane-kun. Thank you. I whisper, my voice full of gratitude. Thank you, pointed ears, no, Ina. I really didn't know what else to do. Kane-kun really isn't guilty, he's definitely being framed. For the first time since hearing that terrible news, I feel a glimmer of hope. I'm not alone. There's someone who also believes in Kane. Thank you. I say gently, my voice full of gratitude. Thank you, Ina. Author's note, the last time I explain anything, because my IQ is at risk. Funny, isn't it? Some people read the story, but their brains seem permanently stuck on the loading screen. They think Orario is some kind of playground, not a battleground of divine politics where gods elbow each other for power and reputation. A rape accusation? Solved by just ask the god. Ha! Please. I can tolerate wild imagination, but don't stomp on logic barefoot and proud. Hestia is not a lie detector. She's a goddess, not a magical truth machine. Even Auranos, who's been sitting on the political throne for centuries, needs deliberation, not just a I feel like he's lying gut feeling. This world is layered, complicated. If you believe every conflict ends with a single sentence, congrats. Your imagination belongs in comedy. And just to be clear, I won't respond to any more dumb comments. The only thing more pitiful than those comments is the fact that I actually wasted time reading them. Chapter 48, Chapter 47. Chapter 47, Hestia's front line, knocking on Power's door. POV Hestia, I'm not running. Running would be a sign of panic, and right now I can't afford to panic anymore. The rage that exploded at Ganesha Familia's headquarters has cooled into a chunk of ice in my chest, ice that's cold, sharp, and burning with determination. My steady steps carry me across Orario's industrial district toward the only place I can think of, Hephaestus's workshop. The air around here is hot and smells like charcoal and forged metal. The rhythmic clanging of hammers echoes from every direction, a symphony of hard work that never stops. I walk in without knocking, passing several of her familia members who stare at me in confusion. Some recognize me, others whisper about the goddess who's member. But I don't care. Their stares don't mean anything anymore. What matters is reaching Hephaestus's private workshop. There, my friend is standing in front of a huge work table covered with weapon blueprints and intricate jewelry designs. Her fiery red hair is a mess. Her skilled hands are carving fine details on a gleaming short blade. Hestia. I'm busy right now, she greets without looking up, her voice flat as usual. But her sentence cuts off when she finally lifts her head and sees my face. Her sharp eyes immediately read everything: my messy hair, my swollen eyes, the way I'm standing tensely like I'm ready to either fight or shatter into pieces. She carefully sets down her tools and turns to face me fully. What's wrong? You look like you've been rolling around in the dirt. Kane-kun was arrested, I say directly, my voice hoarse. They're accusing him of doing the most horrible thing. They threw him in jail like some street criminal. Hephaestus lets out a long sigh, massaging the bridge of her nose with a gesture. I know she does that when facing big problems. I already heard. The news is spreading like wildfire in dry season. The whole city's talking about it. It's a lie, Hephaestus. I step forward, my hands clenched tight. You've known me for hundreds of years in Tenkai. I know my child better than anyone. He would never do something like that. My red eyes start glowing, and I feel my divine aura leaking a little from my body. Some of the metal tools on the table start vibrating softly. Ganesha should be able to see it. I continue with my voice getting higher. He's a god. Just have him ask Kane-kun, he'll know Kane-kun isn't lying. Problem solved. It's that simple, right? Hephaestus looks at me with a complex expression. There's sympathy, there's understanding, but there's also something heavier. She walks toward me with calm steps. Hestia, sit down. Take a breath. And listen to me carefully, because this absolutely isn't that simple. What's not simple? I demand, but I follow her advice and sit in the nearest wooden chair. We're gods. We can see the truth behind lies. We have the ability to, can we? Hephaestus cuts in calmly, a simple question that makes me fall silent. Really? Can we just do that so easily? She pulls up another chair and sits facing me, her sharp eyes staring directly into mine. Listen, Hestia. First of all, sensing lies isn't some kind of magic ability we can just use on anyone whenever we feel like it. She pauses for a moment, letting her words sink into my still churning mind. Ganesha doesn't have that kind of bond with Cain. Not at all, and he doesn't want to get involved either, especially now that rumors are spreading. But I'm not done, Hephaestus says with a firmer tone. Second, and this is the most important part, we're now in Gakkai, the mortal world. The law here doesn't run on divine instinct or godly feelings. The law here runs on visible evidence, audible testimony, and clear procedures. She stands and starts pacing, her hands moving as she speaks, her habit when explaining something complex. There are more than a dozen eyewitnesses who claim they saw your child attack a girl. There's a victim crying with clear grip marks on her neck. There's a coherent story from the victim about what happened. Now imagine if Ganesha or any god came and said, I don't care about all that physical evidence, I don't care about your testimonies, my divine instinct says he's innocent, so he goes free. Hephaestus stops and looks directly at me. What would happen, Hestia? I'm starting to understand where this conversation is heading, and a cold feeling starts creeping through my stomach. The entire justice system we've worked so hard to build in Orario would collapse, she continues with an increasingly serious voice. The mortals would completely lose faith in us. They'd see us as arbitrary tyrants who can change the law on a whim based on just feelings. Orario would fall into chaos. And eventually, the guild would force us to leave Orario, in other words, exile. Each of her words hits like a hammer to my chest. My anger starts wavering, replaced by cold and suffocating despair. So. My voice starts trembling again. So there's nothing I can do? Just because there are a bunch of idiots who saw wrong or maybe deliberately lied, my child has to rot in jail for a crime he never committed? Hephaestus walks over to me and places her warm hand on my shoulder. That touch is a little comforting, but it doesn't take away the pain in my heart. This is way more complicated than just people who saw wrong, Hestia. There's one more crucial thing you need to know, and this will change the entire game. Her tone becomes more careful, more serious, as if she's about to tell me a dangerous secret. The victim, that waitress girl, Seer Flubba. She works at the Hostess of Fertility. I frown. So what? That's just a regular bar where adventurers like to drink, right? No, Hephaestus says, and there's something in her tone that immediately puts me on alert. It's absolutely not a regular bar. The bar's owner, who they call Mamma Mia, her real name is Mia Grand. She's a former level 6 adventurer captain from Freya Familia. My heart stops beating for a moment. That bar, and everyone in it, every waitress, every regular customer, even the janitor are unofficially under absolute protection from Freya. Hephaestus continues with an increasingly low voice. You know what that means, right Hestia? My blood feels like it's freezing in my veins. Freya, the goddess of beauty and love, who's also the most terrifying war goddess in Aurario. Oh no. I whisper, my voice barely audible. Accusing that waitress girl of lying, Hephaestus continues with an increasingly grim tone, accusing her of deliberately framing your child, is the same as declaring that Freya's inner circle has conspired to bring down your familia member. You're no longer just fighting Ganesha familia who's bound by law and procedures. You're indirectly challenging the strongest familia in Aurario. She sits again in front of me, her eyes staring directly into mine with an intensity that makes me unable to look away. This isn't about right or wrong anymore, Hestia. This isn't about justice or truth. This is top-level god politics. This is a war that could destroy not just you and your child, but anyone who dares to help you. My legs feel so weak. I sink deeper into the chair, covering my face with both hands. The world feels like it's collapsing around me. Kane Kun wasn't just framed. He was framed by the most terrifying power in the city. A power that makes even other gods think twice before acting. So this is it? I whisper desperately, my voice muffled by my palms. There's no hope at all? I have to give up and let my child be destroyed by their dirty games. I never said you should give up. Hephaestus's voice comes from above me, and there's something in her tone that makes me lift my head. Her sharp eyes look at me, not with pity or empty sympathy, but with a burning fighting spirit. I said you can't fight them as a goddess relying on divine authority. So, fight them as a mortal. Fight them with their own rules. What do you mean? Hephaestus walks to a large iron cabinet in the corner of the workshop, opening it with a key she takes from her apron pocket. From inside the cabinet, she takes out a leather pouch that looks extremely heavy, then walks back and tosses it onto the work table in front of me. Clink, the sound of clashing gold coins fills the workshop's silence. The pouch opens slightly, and I can see the gleam of Valis inside more than I've ever seen in my entire life. If they used mortal evidence to frame him, then you need to find stronger mortal evidence to free him, Hephaestus says with a firm and confident tone. But Hephaestus, I can't accept this isn't charity, she cuts in quickly. This is an investment. My investment in your familia, and an investment in our friendship. She pulls the chair again and sits, this time closer to me. Listen carefully. I can't get directly involved. If Hephaestus Familia moves officially to help this case, Freya will see it as a direct challenge from another high-level familia. That'll trigger an escalation that ends in war between gods. And in a war like that, your child would actually become the first casualty. I nod slowly, starting to understand the strategy she's offering. But as an individual, I can give you resources to fight in a smart way, she continues while pointing at that money pouch. Use this. Hire the best informants in the city, people who know how to dig up secrets without leaving traces, pay retired adventurers to do secret investigations. People who have skills, experience, and most importantly, aren't afraid of big reputations. Hephaestus stands and starts pacing again, this time with more intense energy. Look for any gap, however small, in their story. Look for inconsistencies in testimonies. Find out where the timeline oddities are. Investigate that girl's background, who she really is, where she came from, whether she has hidden motives. She stops and looks at me with gleaming eyes. And most importantly, find out who else was around the incident location before the commotion happened. Who might have planned this? Who had access to arrange that coincidence? For the first time since hearing the bad news about Kane Kun, I feel a real glimmer of hope. Not empty hope or desperate prayers, but hope based on a concrete plan. Fight their dirty game with a smarter game, Hephaestus continues with a thin smile sharp as a blade. If they want to play politics, give them politics. If they want to play intrigue, give them more complex intrigue. I stare at the pile of valise that's probably enough to buy a luxury mansion in Orario's best district, then look back at my friend's face. Such overwhelming gratitude makes my throat choke up. But there's something in Hephaestus's expression that lets me know this isn't a free gift. What's the condition? I ask directly. Hephaestus smiles, not a happy smile, but the smile of someone who appreciates another person's intelligence. You really are my best friend, she says with a lighter tone. Yes, there's a condition. A heavy one. She sits again, this time with a very serious posture. If you use this money, Hephaestus Familia's name must not be dragged into this at all. Officially, I never gave any help whatsoever. If anyone asks, you got the funds from personal savings or a loan from an unknown source. Understand? I nod. Second, she continues with an increasingly serious tone, if your investigation fails, if the evidence shows your child is actually guilty, or if you can't prove conspiracy, then you have to accept the results. No revenge attacks. No attempts to save him through violence. You accept the results and move on. But no buts, Hestia, she cuts in firmly. If you break this agreement, if you cause trouble that drags my name into it, then not only will our friendship end. I will officially declare that Hephaestus Familia considers Hestia Familia a threat and will act accordingly. That threat is delivered in a very calm tone, but that's exactly what makes it more frightening. This isn't playing around. This is real risk. And third, Hephaestus continues, whatever you find in this investigation, whatever secrets are revealed, whatever conspiracies are exposed, you have to be ready to face the consequences. If this really is Freya's or her circle's doing, then you've declared war against the most dangerous power in Orario. There's no turning back after that. I look at that money pouch again. A pile of valise that could change everything, but could also destroy everything if I make the wrong move. However, when I imagine Kane Kun's face smiling at me, when I remember how he hugs me every night like a little child afraid of losing his mother, my choice is already clear. I stand and take that money pouch. It feels heavy not just because of its contents, but because of the responsibility, hope, and risk contained within it. I agree to all your conditions, I say with a voice that no longer trembles from despair, but from burning determination. And I promise, Hephaestus, I won't fight them as a goddess relying on empty authority. I'll destroy their lies with their own methods, evidence by evidence, fact by fact. Hephaestus stands and looks at me with an expression that's a mixture of pride and worry. Good. Now you sound like someone who can win, she says with a thin smile. But remember, Hestia. Once you start down this path, there's no turning back. You'll be facing very dangerous enemies who've been playing this game much longer than you. I know, I answer while tying the money pouch to my waist. But they made one fatal mistake. What's that? I look directly into Hephaestus's eyes, and for the first time since this morning, I feel like the real goddess Hestia, not afraid, not desperate, but angry with controlled and deadly rage. They touched my family. Chapter 49, Chapter 48, Chapter 48, Ryu, a lion who's suspicious of Seer, POV Ina, it's been 2 days since Kane got arrested. Like always, I'm sitting at my desk with a pile of documents that I've barely touched since this morning. My eyes are staring at the words on the papers, but my brain's not processing anything I'm looking at all. Every few minutes, I hear whispers from the corner of the room. Still can't believe he could do that. Heard goddess Hestia hasn't left the Hephaestus Familia since yesterday. Ina-san was all pissed off defending him yesterday. Every time someone mentions my name, my ears immediately get hot. Rose keeps glancing at me with this look that's a mix of concern and pity. Like she's looking at someone who's grieving over a loss. Miss Ha's being even more careful than usual. She talks to me in this gentle tone that's super unnatural, like I'm porcelain that'll shatter if she speaks too loud. Ina-chan, want some coffee? I'll make you some. No, thanks, I answer without looking up from the files I'm not even reading. Yesterday's anger has already evaporated. Replaced by something colder, the calculated composure of an experienced advisor. I'm not just gonna sit here waiting. I need data. Data that can help Kane get out of this case. Either way, Kane's an adventurer, and if he's stuck in there too long, it'll slow down his progress. The guild's archive room feels quieter than usual. The smell of old paper and dried ink fills the air, giving off this vibe that this is where truth is stored in neat piles of documents. I pull Kane's official file from the shelf with steady movements. My fingers flip through page after page carefully, looking for anything that could give me a clue. Growth data, stable. Consistent. Income, regular, no suspicious spikes or drops. Disciplinary records, clean. I stop at the last page, staring at the empty notes in the violations section. Not a single report about fights, no rule violations, no complaints from other adventurers about aggressive behavior. This doesn't make sense. I lean back in my chair, staring at the file with narrowed eyes. This pattern is the pattern of an adventurer who's methodical and super careful, not some impulsive attacker. Every single one of his reports shows careful planning. He even always asks for details about monsters before going down to the dungeon. So why did he suddenly explode in some alley? His profile doesn't match at all. With my advisor authority, I access a copy of the initial report from Ganesha Familia. My fingers tremble slightly as I open the official document. On the surface, the report looks super convincing. Victim Seer Fluva's testimony is written with emotionally detailed descriptions. She describes how Kane bumped into her, grabbed her neck, and covered her mouth when she screamed for help. More than a dozen eyewitness names from the crowd are listed as supporters. For a moment, doubt attacks me like poison slowly spreading. Could I have misjudged Kane? Could there be a dark side he never showed? Could all his innocence and politeness just be a mask? I shake my head hard. No. My instincts as an advisor who's handled hundreds of adventurers can't be this wrong. My professional eye starts looking for gaps, no matter how small. I compare the incident time recorded in the Ganesha Familia report with the transaction log at the guild. And that's where I find it. The first clue. Kane exchanged his magic stones at the guild counter at 1632. The Ganesha Familia report records Seer's first scream being heard around 1634. I stare at both times while calculating in my head. Only 2 minutes. My heart starts beating faster. This is a super narrow time window. What's his motive? If this is robbery, why would he do it just minutes after getting money? Doesn't make sense. If it's lust, why so suddenly and in such a busy place with so many people coming and going? My mind starts working at full speed. It feels like. The more I think about it, the more it feels like someone was already waiting for Kane in that alley. Not a coincidence but deliberate timing. Someone waiting for him right after he left the guild. Someone who knew exactly when he'd pass through that alley. I close all the files with decisive movements. I won't find the truth from these piles of paper. The truth is out there. I decide to look for more information. Miss Ha, I walk to her desk with controlled steps. I'm going out for a bit for personal business. Ina-chan? Where are you going? She looks at me worriedly. Just, need some fresh air. I'll be back before work hours end. Before anyone can ask more questions, I'm already walking out of the guild with a very clear new mission in my mind. Hostess of Fertility. That's where I'm looking for information. Either way, the victim was there, so I'll definitely get some info. Just like that, I arrive at the hostess. The tavern's busy as usual, mixed with warm laughter and conversations from customers. The appetizing aroma of cooking greets everyone who enters. Such a sharp contrast with the serious mission I'm on. I choose a corner table that gives me a good view of the entire room. My eyes immediately search for a very familiar figure, Seer Flubba. And I find her. The gray-haired girl is serving a table across the room. From a distance, she looks normal, smiling at customers, taking orders, carrying trays with nimble gestures. But a trained advisor's eyes see something different. Her smile doesn't always reach her eyes. There's tension in her shoulders that shouldn't be there for an experienced waitress. Sometimes she shows fragile gestures, slightly trembling when pouring drinks, jumping startled when a customer speaks too loudly. Her movements feel like the result of practice, not habit. Like she knows someone's watching her. For someone who just experienced harassment trauma, her performance feels theatrical. Am I being a bit too sensitive today? Good afternoon, meow. What would you like to order, Naya? A cheerful voice makes me turn. Anya Frommel, the cat girl with adorable ears and tail, stands beside my table with a wide smile and a small notebook in hand. Ah, hello Anya-chan, I smile back, trying to look relaxed. Just hot tea for now. Okay, meow, she notes my order with energetic movements. Miss Ina rarely comes here, meow. Usually it's just for meetings with advisor clients. Yeah, today I just wanted a change of scenery, I answer while looking around. By the way, how's everyone here? I heard there was an unpleasant incident. I see Anya's expression immediately change. Her cat-shaped ears droop slightly. Oh, that meow. She glances towards Seer, who's serving another table. We were all super shocked, meow. Didn't think anyone would dare bother Seer around here. Must have been so traumatic for her, I comment carefully, trying to dig for more information. Yeah, meow. But Seer's strong. She went back to work the next day, meow. Anya says in an admiring tone, but then her expression turns confused. What's wrong, Anya-chan? Something weird. Anya scratches her head between her cat ears. What's weird is actually Ryo, meow. My heart immediately beats faster. There's a clue. Ryo. What happened with her? Usually she's the fiercest when someone bothers Seer, meow. They're super close friends. But since that incident, she's become quiet and keeps asking questions about Seer, like she's suspicious of something, meow. Anya looks around, then whispers quieter, yesterday I saw Ryo peeking at Seer from behind the kitchen door. Weird, right, meow? She should be the most protective, but instead she's like, doesn't trust her. That information hits me like lightning. Ryo Lion. Seer's closest friend according to reports, and I know their relationship is super close. She's the one who's suspicious? Why? What did she see or feel that others don't know? Where's Ryo now? I ask, trying to keep my voice casual. Oh, she's out on an errand for Mamma Mia, meow. Usually comes back around evening. I nod while smiling. All right, thanks Anya-chan. Just the tea for now. Okay, meow. Anya runs off toward the kitchen. I sit in silence, my brain working at full speed processing this new information. The center of this puzzle isn't Kane. It's not Seer either. All the threads seem to point to one person, Ryo Lion. Someone who knows Seer super well. Someone who should be the most angry and protective. But she's the one who's suspicious. What does she know? I reach into my pocket to get money, placing it on the table without waiting for the tea I ordered to arrive. I have to find Ryo Lion. Today. If there's anyone who can explain something hidden behind all this, it's only her, Ryo Lion. Chapter 50, Chapter 49. Chapter 49, The Wall Called Friendship, POV, Ina. I walked out of the hostess of fertility faster than usual. The information from Anya kept rolling around in my head like an incomplete puzzle. Ryo Lion was suspicious of Seer. Her own closest friend didn't believe her. But the problem was, I couldn't talk to her inside the bar. Too many eyes and ears watching. Most importantly, Seer was there. I needed to talk to Ryo alone, when she was off guard and couldn't run away from my questions. My plan changed. Looking for someone in the vast city of Orario was like finding a needle in a haystack. I'd wait instead. It was still afternoon and I still had work to do. Back at the guild, I tried finishing my delayed paperwork, but my concentration was shot. Every document I read just became meaningless strings of letters. My eyes kept glancing at the wall clock, counting how much longer until work ended. Ina-chan, are you okay? Miss Ha asked with that worried tone that had become way too familiar lately. I didn't even know how many times she'd asked that in the past 2 days. Yeah, just tired, I answered without looking up from files I wasn't even reading. Rose glanced at me from her desk. Did you eat lunch? Yeah. Lie. I hadn't been eating regularly since yesterday. The clock kept ticking so damn slowly. Every second felt like an hour. When the wall clock finally chimed to signal the end of the workday, I nearly jumped out of my chair. Rarely was I this excited to go home. See you tomorrow, I hurriedly packed my things. Ina-chan. Want to go home together? Miss Ha offered. No, thanks. I've got something to do real quick. Before anyone could ask more questions, I was already out of the guild with a very clear mission in mind. I glanced quickly left and right, making sure no one was watching. Then I found a narrow alley across from the hostess of fertility. Perfect spot for staking out without being seen. Dark enough to hide me, but bright enough to see who was coming and going. I decided to wait here. 1 hour passed since I started waiting. The sounds of the bar's crowd gradually faded as night went on. The last customers came out laughing and chatting with voices starting to slur from alcohol. Street lamps began going out one by one, leaving only a few lanterns illuminating the road with dim, yellowish light. Night was about to fall. The atmosphere became quiet and cold. The night wind started biting at my exposed skin, but I endured the boredom and cold air for the sake of a truth that might change everything. I waited patiently, eyes focused on the staff door that remained tightly shut. Finally, that door opened. I held my breath, heart beating faster. A few moments later, one last figure came out alone. Wearing her waitress uniform, she walked with steps that were calm but alert. Even in the darkness, I recognized her distinctive posture and way of walking. Ryo Lion. I waited until she walked past my hiding spot, then carefully stepped out of the shadows. Ryo Lion. My voice broke the night silence. Can I talk to you for a moment? I looked at her with a mix of nervousness and excitement. I felt like I'd definitely get useful information from Ryo. She stopped, but didn't turn around. Even in the dim lantern light, I could see her shoulders tense. What do you want, guild lady? She asked, her tone not friendly at all. She slowly turned to face me, her blue eyes cold and defensive. I'm in a tool, I introduced myself while stepping closer, but keeping a safe distance. An advisor from the guild. I'm the advisor for the adventurer who allegedly assaulted Miss Seer. Her eyes narrowed. So? I believe he's innocent. Your belief doesn't change the facts. Her voice was flat, but I caught something in her eyes, a flash of doubt she was trying to hide. I took a deep breath. Ryo, I've been studying this case. There's something off. Kane's record is completely clean, not a single report of violence or suspicious behavior. The timing's weird too. Just 2 minutes after he exchanged magic stones at the guild. Before the incident happened. Maybe it was a spontaneous attack, she replied, but her voice sounded less certain. Or maybe it wasn't an attack at all. I stepped a little closer. I know this sounds crazy, but your own friend told me. You're suspicious of Seer's story yourself, aren't you? Those words hit her like a slap. I saw her eyes widen for a moment before hardening again. Silence. Dead silence. A silence that felt like forever, where I could hear my own heartbeat and the sound of night wind whistling between buildings. I watched her, the internal battle raging in those green eyes. Doubt against loyalty. Logic against emotion. Justice against friendship. For a moment, I thought I'd succeeded. I saw cracks in her defensive wall. Would I finally be able to help Kane get free from these accusations? But after that silence that felt like eternity, I saw something in her eyes harden. Like a steel door had been slammed shut. Loyalty had won. I'd lost this conversation. She stared at me, her gaze now without doubt only cold, forced certainty. I saw that man with my own eyes a week ago, she said in a controlled voice. He tried to rob a small child for no clear reason. I know what kind of person he is. My friend is the victim. That man is the perpetrator. Nothing's wrong here. That man is what's wrong. The words came out with forced conviction, like a mantra recited to convince herself. I saw her eyes looking at me growing colder, as if wanting to get away from me quickly. Don't look for me again about this matter, she spoke her final sentence with a tone that left no room for argument. This stopped me from speaking. She turned and walked away into the night's darkness, her steps quick and firm, not giving me another chance to talk. I stood alone under the dim lantern light, feeling deep defeat and frustration gnawing at my chest. I realized I couldn't win this fight with logic alone. I'd just crashed into a wall called blind friendship. My biggest hope for getting a credible witness had just vanished in an instant. The cold wind hit my face, but it wasn't as cold as the despair starting to creep into my heart. My last hope for helping Kane, maybe really did lie with Ryu. But seeing the look in her eyes earlier, I knew she'd never choose truth over her friend. This was basically a dead end. I felt tightness in my chest. Now it felt like saving Kane would be incredibly difficult. If not Ryu, maybe the only answer could come from Seer herself. Even if it meant I'd have to hear lies directly, from her lips. POV, Ryu Orario's moon slowly appeared in the sky. I walked home with steps slower than usual. I'd been keeping this suspicion for a long time. Since that day, when I saw Seer smile without wavering, as if nothing had ever happened. But I kept convincing myself I was wrong. That this was just my traumatized feelings. However, the guild advisor's words still echoed in my head. 2 minutes. Too short a time for a spontaneous attack driven by lust. I stopped under a street lantern's light, white breath coming from my mouth in the cold night air. Seer. The image of her face today appeared in my mind. The way she smiled while serving customers, the way she carried trays without shaking, the way she was, normal. Too normal for someone who'd just nearly been raped. I'd been attacked before. I knew what that trauma felt like. How your body shakes uncontrollably, how sudden sounds make your heart race, how sleep becomes impossible because of nightmares. After what happened to Astria Familia, after all my friends died and I was the only survivor, I couldn't touch food for days. I couldn't sleep without waking up screaming. I couldn't see blood without throwing up. Seer showed none of those signs at all. My mind felt chaotic. I needed somewhere quiet to calm down. I sat on an empty park bench, staring at my own hands. Hands that once shook uncontrollably after that massacre. Hands that needed months to become steady again. Impossible, I whispered softly. But a small voice in my head kept whispering. What if that advisor was right? What if Seer? No, I shook my head hard. Seer was all I had left. The only one who didn't leave me after everyone else was gone. When I couldn't work properly because of nightmares, she was patient and helped me. When I woke up screaming in the middle of the night, she was the one who came to comfort me. She was the only family I had now. The night wind blew, carrying the scent of flowers from the garden, reminding me of my slaughtered friends. Tears started flowing without me realizing. Elise always told me that justice was everything. That an adventurer should always stand for what's right, no matter how difficult the consequences. Justice, Ryu, her voice echoed in my memory. If justice only applies to enemies, it's not justice. Justice must also apply to people we love. But now I was choosing to close my eyes to the possibility that an innocent person was suffering. Because I was scared. Because I was selfish. Because I couldn't bear to lose the only person I had left. I'd already lost everyone I loved. If Seer was also lying to me, she'd be arrested, which meant I'd truly be alone in this world. Alone with the guilt that already accompanied my days. Forgive me, Elise, while holding back my tears. I'm not as strong as you thought. Forgive me, Kaguya. Lyra. I'm betraying everything you taught me. I couldn't hold back, my tears finally flowed out. For my dead friends. For the man named Cain who might be innocent. For myself, who chose the coward's path. I can't, I whispered with flowing tears. I can't lose her too. Maybe I didn't deserve to be called an adventurer anymore. Maybe I didn't deserve to carry the name of Astria Familia. But I'd lost too much to lose the only thing I had left. Even if it meant living with guilt that would eat away at my soul every day. I stood up from the bench, wiping tears with the back of my hand. Slowly, very slowly, I arranged my facial expression. Erasing traces of sadness. Eliminating signs of doubt. Neutralizing all the emotions that had been churning. My face returned to the mask I'd worn for years, cold, controlled, showing nothing. Tomorrow I'd go back to work as usual. I'd smile at Seer as usual. I'd pretend not to hear the small voice in my head that kept wondering. Like I always did. Because that was the only way I knew how to survive, hiding all the pain behind an emotionless face. Because sometimes, surviving was more important than seeking truth. And I was already too tired. Too tired to be strong anymore. Chapter 51, Chapter 50, Chapter 50, Pitiful Cain, POV Hestia, 2 days. 2 days since Cain-kun was arrested, and I feel like I'm completely lost. I can't sleep properly, can't eat properly. Right now I'm walking down the hallway of Ganesha Familia's headquarters, and it feels impossibly long today. Every step I take echoes with this weird sound, like an irregular heartbeat, or maybe that's just my own heart pounding in my ears. The air in this hallway hits my nose with the smell of iron, dampness, and God knows what else that makes me feel kinda sick. My footsteps drag my thoughts back to yesterday. After meeting with Hephaestus, the only thing on my mind was Cain. I felt so restless. Every second felt like I was wasting precious time. But my friend suggested I rest for a day. Hestia, you should rest first. Your appearance is really pitiful, you don't look like a goddess at all, more like a little kid who's been rolling around in the mud, she said while massaging the bridge of her nose, that gesture she does when facing big problems. And it'd be even worse if you met Cain in an emotionally unstable state. Now I get it. My stomach won't stop churning, like it's being stabbed from the inside. My hands are cold and sweaty, and I have to clench them tight so they don't look like they're shaking. There's this nausea that keeps rising and falling in my throat, and I have to keep swallowing to hold it back. I don't know why I'm like this. Is it because I'm too anxious? Honestly, I'm worried about Cain. No, I'm really worried. What if he's not my Cain-kun anymore? After all, when someone becomes a public target, their mental state can be shattered so easily. I'm holding back this worry inside me. In front of me, Hoshana walks ahead with heavy, rhythmic steps. His half-elephant mask makes him look like a temple guardian. Sometimes he glances back at me, and I see something in his eyes. Not just discomfort at dealing with a goddess whose familia member got arrested for a case like this. There's something else. Pity, maybe. Or maybe, guilt. You have 10 minutes, Goddess Hestia, he finally says, his voice deep and echoing in the narrow corridor. And I have to be in the room during the meeting. Standard rules for cases. He pauses for a moment, and I see his jaw tighten. Like this. I nod because I don't trust myself to make a sound. My throat feels like it's filled with coarse sand. Every time I try to swallow, it's like swallowing glass shards. I'm so thirsty. We stop in front of a heavy iron door. Hashanah pulls out a large key from his leather belt, the movement slow, almost reluctant. As he inserts the key into the lock and turns it, the metallic click sounds like a gunshot in my ears. The door opens with a soft creak. And my mind goes blank for a moment. The room is so small. Gray stone walls with no decorations, lit by a single magic crystal lamp hanging weakly from the ceiling, casting pale white light that makes everything look like a nightmare. There's just a metal table and 2 wooden chairs. In one of those chairs sits someone who I think I used to know. Kane. But this isn't my Kane. He's sitting hunched over with sagging shoulders, head hanging so low that his disheveled hair covers his face. His hands are shackled on the table, shackles that are too big for his thin wrists, leaving red marks on his skin. Those are shackles made of really strong wood. When he lifts his head, whether from hearing my footsteps or just reflex, I almost throw up right there. One of his eyes is severely swollen. So bad I can barely stand to look at it. Dark purple, with faded yellow edges. Oh no, how long has he been like this? The lips that used to smile at me are now cracked, with dried wounds at the left corner. His cheekbone is scratched, and when I look closer, there are more bruises on his neck and arms. They didn't even bother treating him. My chest feels so tight I want to scream. If Ganesha were here, I probably would have gone to him and demanded an explanation. Unfortunately, I don't even know where that elephant mask went. Hephaestus said Ganesha's been gone for several days, apparently handling something big on Auranos's orders. Looking at Kane's face again, my chest feels constricted. My eyes start to burn, like tears are just waiting for permission to break free. They beat my child. They actually beat him. The child who always smiled every morning. The child who hugged me warmly before bed. The child whose eyes sparkled every time I cooked breakfast. He looks so much thinner than the last time I saw him. His clothes are torn, dirty. I don't even dare guess what kind of filth is stuck to them. All the strategies I made with Hephaestus, all the clever plans we put together, they all evaporate. All that's left is this pain stabbing my chest like a rusty knife. I walk closer with trembling legs. Every step feels like walking on thin ice that could crack at any moment. The sound of my feet on the stone floor sounds thunderous even though I'm actually walking slowly. I pull out a chair and sit down, my eyes unable to leave his figure. Hashanah closes the door and stands in the corner like a statue, arms folded across his chest. Clearly interested. Kane Kun. I whisper. My voice sounds like crumpled paper. I'm shocked at how weak and hoarse it sounds. He doesn't lift his head. Doesn't even move. He keeps staring at the shackles on his hands with that empty gaze that tears my heart apart. I can see his chafed wrists. He must have tried to remove those shackles over and over. Why? When he speaks, I immediately know, this isn't the Kane I know. This is a stranger's voice. Why are you here, goddess? Every word is like a slap. You shouldn't see me like this. Still without lifting his head. You shouldn't be here. This isn't appropriate. I try to reach for his shackled hands. But he pulls them back quickly, the shackles clanging loudly. Don't touch me, he whispers, voice trembling. You don't know what people will say if they see you touching a monster like me. Kane-kun, listen. He shakes his head hard, finally lifting his head to look at me. And when I see his eyes, the one that isn't swollen, I feel like the world stops spinning. Empty. Completely empty. There's no warmth that usually shines when he looks at me. No laughter. Not even pain or anger. Just emptiness. Like looking into a bottomless well. Leave, goddess, he says flatly, like reporting a boring mission. Forget about me. Just pretend I'm already dead. It's easier that way. Don't talk like I'm a disgrace. He cuts me off, his tone getting louder. Useless. A burden that drags your good name through the mud. Look at me, goddess. Look. He laughs. A hoarse, bitter, heart-wrenching laugh. A laugh without joy, just pure bitterness. A weak and stupid level 1 adventurer. Can't even protect his own goddess's reputation. And now. His voice trembles ironically, a criminal. A rapist. Forever known as the bastard who attacked an innocent girl. Tears pool in my eyes without me being able to stop them. I'm trash, goddess. Useless trash. You should have thrown me away from the start. You should never have given me a place in the familia. Kane-kun, stop, I'm serious, goddess, he suddenly shouts, those empty eyes blazing with something terrible. Not anger or sadness. Just kick me out of the familia. Let me rot in here. I don't care if I die. That's the best thing I could do. My death would be the greatest gift to free you from shame. That word gift. Something inside me explodes. Not just anger. Not just pain. But a mixture of all the emotions I've been holding back, fear of losing him, the unlimited love I have, anger at myself, everything explodes together. I suddenly stand up, the chair behind me falls, my hand automatically slams the table. Kane's shackles clang like a bell. Gift. I scream, breaking the silence. Tears flow freely, but I don't care. You think your death would be a gift to me? Hoshana jumps, his hand reflexively going to his sword as if sensing danger, but doesn't dare move when he sees a goddess's fury. Kane-kun. You think I'd be relieved if you died? I continue, my voice mixed with sobs I can't hold back. While crying, I try to speak calmly. Kane-kun. You think your death would be a gift to me? You think I could sleep peacefully, knowing my only child died alone? Are you insane? I circle the table with fiery steps. Before anyone can react, my hand flies and slaps Kane's unbruised cheek. Smack. The slap echoes like an explosion. Listen to me, Kane. You're so stupid. I scream in front of his face, tears streaming down. Useless. A burden? Who the hell do you think you are? Look at me. Look, you idiot. Kane stares at me with wide eyes, completely shocked. Maybe it's the first time he's seen me truly angry. Not annoyed, but angry because of love, or what you'd call caring. I don't care if you're level 1 or level 100. I keep shouting, ignoring Hoshana who steps forward worriedly. Don't care if you're rich or poor. Don't care if the whole world calls you a monster or bastard or whatever. I grab the front of his shabby shirt, until our faces are almost touching. I'm the one who chose you, Kane. Out of everyone. I chose you myself. And now you're saying, your death would be a gift. At first I was shouting, but what comes out is a hoarse voice. Then crying. I can't hold it back. So you think I'd be happy if you died? Think I could live peacefully knowing I failed to protect you? Letting you break down until you wished for death. I can't take it anymore. My strength disappears instantly, and I collapse toward him. My forehead rests on his shoulder, hands still gripping his shirt, sobbing like a little kid who lost her favorite doll. You think, your death would help me. I sob between gasping breaths. That would make me unable to forgive myself, Cain. That means I failed as a protective goddess. Failed as family. I'd be alone again like before you came and gave me a reason to smile every day. My tears soak his dirty shirt, but I don't care. I keep crying, letting out all the pain I've held back for 2 days. So don't. I whisper with a heavily trembling voice, don't ever talk about yourself being useless again. Don't ever belittle the child I'm most proud of. Don't ever say your death would be a gift. Silence fills the room, only filled with my sobs gradually subsiding. I feel Cain's body tense under my embrace, his breathing irregular. Goddess Hestia. Hashanah's voice from behind, full of hesitation. He seems reluctant to interrupt us. Though reluctant, he still has to follow the rules. Time's almost up, and I think 1 more minute. I cut him off without lifting my head from Cain's shoulder. Please. I feel something wet dripping on my shoulder. Tears. Cain is finally crying too. I didn't know. His voice is so quiet, trembling with emotion long held back. I thought, you'd be better without me. Thought with me gone, your name wouldn't be tainted. Idiot, I whisper while slowly pulling back to look at his face. The eye that isn't swollen is now full of tears, and for the first time in 2 days, I see life returning. He's still the same Cain as before. A tainted name means nothing if I lose the reason to defend it. Hashanah really steps forward. Goddess Hestia, time's really up. I have to escort you out now. I wipe my face roughly, erasing traces of tears. My crying stops. What's left is just determination. No turning back. I stand up straight and look directly into Cain's wet eyes. Listen carefully, Cain Kun, I say with a voice no longer trembling, but full of unshakable conviction. I'm gonna pull you out of here. Alive. Don't care who I have to step on. Don't care if I have to war with Freya or burn all of Orario to ash. Don't care if I have to challenge the guild or even if Auranos himself comes down. I place my hand on his unbruised cheek, wiping away the remaining tears with my thumb. Listen to me, Cain. I will get you out. Whatever happens. You're the only one I have, and I'm a goddess who will never break her promise. His tear-filled eyes look at me with a mixture of shock, hope, and something else. Maybe, for the first time in days, trust. So hold on, I continue while slowly backing away as Hashanah touches my shoulder. Don't give up. Don't let them destroy you more than this. Because I'm coming to get you, and when that happens, I want to see my strong child, not an empty shell like you are now. Hashanah starts guiding me to the door, but I don't look back. I feel Cain's gaze piercing my back. No longer empty or hopeless. Somehow I feel happy. I know Cain isn't someone who gives up easily. I know, because I live with him. Every morning, every night. I know what he's like. As the iron door closes with a loud sound, I hear his quiet but clear voice, "Thank you, Goddess." Those are the last words I hear before the door shuts. I walk out of the cell with heavy steps, my breathing still ragged, chest tight like I just finished screaming with all my might. Hashanah beside me walks without saying anything, but I can feel his gaze, half worried, half awkward. When we reach the end of the corridor, I turn to him. He looks back, that half-elephant mask making his expression hard to read, but somehow I feel like I see guilt in his eyes. Hey I sigh, holding back anger that hasn't completely faded. I stare at Hashanah for a moment, my gaze cold, full of dissatisfaction. He bows his head slightly, as if not knowing what to say. Even though I'm a bit dissatisfied, I can't do anything. After all, he's not wrong. Without a single word, I turn my face away and walk off, leaving that corridor. My steps are quick, almost hurried, but there's something burning inside me, growing determination. Somehow, I can feel Hashanah's eyes following my back. But I don't stop. After all, I still have a lot of things to do. As soon as my feet step outside the room, I take a deep breath, holding back tears that still want to fall. Looks like I need to get Kane out of here fast, I mutter quietly. This is a promise I plant in my heart. And also, the informants I paid. They should have gotten something by now. Or at least, a small clue, anything, that I can use to save him. I clench my fists and continue on my way.